just hope
there is a reflection. Honorable Dodo, there's some reflection. Okay, it's gone. So let's now frame you. You are fine now.
Don't
Yes.
get lost when we need you the most.
Please keep it there, Honorable Dodovu.
Okay, fine.
Hey, I need your medium close up. Nesha.
I'm okay, man.
Okay. No, please move to your left, to your right. You are not okay.
You are not okay, and you must listen to Shelley because she is helping us, right? She's correcting us.
Okay. Is the chairperson in? Advocate, so that I check the chairperson.
The session.
Advocate, I hope chair will be fine. I'm leaving now. It's 2:01. So thanks.
Shall we get started, Advocate Pendela?
The deputy chair is there, Shirley.
Yes, I've checked deputy chair, sir.
Yeah, so I think let's start.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, welcome, colleagues. As we all know, we're here for a joint briefing session by the Inter-Ministerial Task Team on the Northwest Province intervention, the Section 100 intervention. It's a carryover from the last term of Parliament. And we have to welcome all of you here, especially the Minister of Co-operative Governance and Traditional Affairs and the Premier of the Northwest Province and their respective teams. There are also presumably Selga people here and others. Welcome to all of you. I should say that for me, one of the values amongst many of being what you call a program director, NCOP deputy chairperson, is that, you have always been telling us time up and, our time lapses, and then you cut short our words and we feel brutalized and traumatized because it's mid-sentence, as it were. So now I have the opportunity to say, NCOP Deputy Chairperson, your time is up. So having said that, I was joking. So let's move on. Welcome
Chair,
everybody once again. And
Chair,
can we, sorry, yes?
It's Honorable Abaskachni. I want to raise a point of order, please.
Two, please.
Thank you. Chair, on a point of order, I raised this in the programming meeting. I raised this in the WIPS meeting. I would like to know what is this format? According to the rules of Parliament, let's start with the Constitution. The Constitution says there are certain procedures for interventions. We are dealing with a Section 100 intervention in the Northwest Province. In the 5th Parliament, there was an ad hoc committee who dealt with this. In the 6th Parliament, no ad hoc committee. Now, when I raised it in the WIPS meeting, it was said nothing prevents the feedback to be done to the House, which might be technically correct. But this is not the first thing that's happening in the NCOP. A report back, progress reports must be done to a specific committee according to the rules as set out in the Constitution and the rules. Nothing comes to a Parliament directly. Because the point of order that I'm raising here is the committee should be able to discuss and decide on whether they're happy with the progress report or not, whether they want to call in other people, whatever they decide to do, which is not possible in a situation like this. We can only raise some questions. And who is taking deliberations? I really put this, we need to get this in the correct procedure. We cannot continue in this way. It is out of order. Because whoever is going to decide, it cannot be the minister on her own deciding to lift the intervention or not, if it's not done through a committee with a report of any other place and any other issue in the NCOP. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you done, Ms. Labuschagne?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Firstly, I will ask Advocate Pendela to come in. My understanding is that this is a report back of sorts. I'm not sure what happened in the programming committee. Presumably, you raised the issues there as you imply you did. And presumably, it was agreed, despite what you said, that what's happening right now
Chair,
is
on a point
legally
of
correct. No,
point
I've said presumably, but can I hand over to Advocate Pendela? Because I don't want to get involved, nor does the House, in what happened in the programming committee. So let's hear what Advocate Pendela has to say, and then perhaps the Chief Whip, yes. But you're welcome to say something if you have to, yes.
Thank you. On a point of order, I raised and I asked for a legal opinion, and it was said we can take this outside of the House. Nobody came back to me. I have not received a legal opinion. There was no feedback. There was no discussions. That was just pushed through to this in the House. I'm sorry, this is closing the democratic space. It is closing accountability. It is closed. It is a grave mistreating of the rules of the House, because all issues in Parliament is dealt by committees. No issue can come to the House directly as we are doing at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Labuschagne. Advocate Pendela, would you want to explain? And maybe the Chief Whip of the NCOP could come in as well if he feels the need to. Okay, Advocate Pendela.
Yes,
please.
Okay.
Honorable Karim, I'll defer to the Chief Whip. I will come after the Chief.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Whip.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. This is not a sitting of the House. The program committee has agreed on this matter. You are, for starters, Chairperson of the Finance Select Committee, and Honorable China, Chairperson of Cooperative Governance, two committees that were identified to have a critical role to play. But this is extended to the rest of the select committees because of the multidisciplinary nature of the intervention in the Northwest. The committee is a delegated structure of the House, so we're quite clear of what we are doing as it was approved in the programming committee. So I'd suggest that there is no confusion about the convening of this meeting and to deal with the subject at hand, which is very crucial, Chair. So I don't understand why this matter is arising after we discuss it in the WIPS forum and we retable the idea. And in fact, there's a development from the WIPS forum. This is more clarity now of what is taking place in the House. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to come in? Yeah.
Yes, can I just get, Chairperson, it's Member Arnold here.
Yes.
Thank you. No, I think the Whip must answer the question here. Was this report discussed in the COCTA Select Committee? That is what the question is.
The Chairperson of the Council refers the report to the relevant committees of the House. This matter is referred here. It's an outstanding report that must be shared. And we felt it necessary that all select committee must entertain it. Why are you so shocked to receive a report in this fashion?
Chairperson?
Chairperson, if I may.
Yes, yeah. Can we take the Honorable Lucas first, then you can come in, Ms. Labuschagne. Yes.
Chairperson, what is a little bit concerning is that it is not the first time that in the NCOP we have invited a minister to do a briefing to us in a fashion that we are doing it exactly now. The processing of this is the one that should be discussed within the ambit of what we are doing here today. Because I don't think this forum, as it is a broader forum and an extended forum, is going to take specific decisions. But we are making sure that all of us are receiving the briefing. We had last year, I think at least two. The one, I'm not 100% sure of minerals, but there was one on minerals and there was one on water. So this is not the first time that we are dealing with a specific report in this fashion. And I know Honorable Labuschagne was clarified then, and we are still clarifying her now. But the issue is that I think let us make a recommendation. Let us not begin to stop whatever is going to happen now because we are taking members into consideration. But let us make a recommendation, and that recommendation will then assist us to take the process forward. Thank you.
Ms. Labuschagne, before you come in, can I suggest that there's an inherent value in having this discussion? It cannot be that whatever the status of this extended committee sitting is, that will undermine the rules, because somebody or other will take us to court. So as I understand it, this is complementary to the processes that you are raising. And as I understand, both the Chief Whip and the NCOP Deputy Chair, that's what they're saying. There's no intention to undermine the very rules that we as a NCOP have shaped. So I suggest you see this as part of the process. It's got an inherent value. And surely this is useful, this discussion like this. So having said that, I can only urge you to be understanding of this process. And when the programming committee and the Chiefs Forum meets, you can take the issues further. Thank you. But go ahead, it's your right to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I first have to say the following. I am not saying there is not value in a progress report. There's absolutely value. It is long outstanding to start off with. I know for a fact that the reason and the reasons, or that the members of the DA at least raised this issue in the committee, where is the feedback report, the progress report. Now, I raised it, yes, in the WIPS meeting. I raised it in the programming meeting. And we can look at the minutes. The feedback that I got was, there's nothing wrong to bring it to the House. I didn't agree with it. I asked for a legal opinion. Now, the ANC decided it will be continued. I didn't agree with that. I understand democracy, and I understand that if you vote something through, it's through. What I'm raising here and is the issue that we are not following the rules, and I would like to know why not, because there was ample time since we started in 2019 up till now to have the feedback and the progress reports to the COCTA committee. I'm not saying that there must be another ad hoc committee, but if that is the need, that should be. So my recommendation would be, Honorable Lucas, that yes, we started with a precedent, which I also raised when we started with the briefings of the ministers on the COVID, instead of having those briefings in the meetings. And I said in the meetings that we will create a precedent for further things, and I will not leave it. I will take it up. And that day came today. I tried to take it up. But I'm also very sorry that this is becoming the legacy of the NCOP, where the majority party just push through things, whether it's right or wrong. Then we have to go to a court, spend the taxpayers' money to correct it, like we've had to do with the Tswane. And the same issue of intervention, that the DA constantly said, we are in the wrong, you are doing wrong. It's not as if the taxpayers have money that lying around that we can spend because we are the majority party. So I really, really feel that we are failing in what we're supposed to do because we are just don't think of the consequences. And I'm ending this off. I know this progress report is important. That is why I am here. Otherwise, I would have said, it's not been said it's an extended committee. It's not been even said anything. It said it's a briefing, but it's in the format of a house sitting. So really, my recommendation is that this report has to go to either an ad hoc committee or a joint committee between finances and COCTA, or one of them, or to both of them, so that the committee can have input on if they want any other further things and if they want to do oversight and investigate any more than the 3 hours that's being limited to the sitting. Thank you.
The Chief Whip, would you like to reply? Advocate Pindela or anybody familiar
Chairperson,
with this?
we are
Certainly.
using the raise your hand function in my hand.
Ah, yes. Okay, yes. I haven't been alerted to that. Okay, fine. Go ahead, please.
Chairperson, there's a problem here because this report was not passed through the relevant committee. This report comes from the Northwest Province. The chairperson of this select committee comes from the Northwest Province. I don't understand what is the excitement of just pushing matters through the NCOP, even though it's illegal. You cannot bring a report which was not tabled in the committee to the House. Tell me, if this is not a House sitting, what is it then? Because we need really to be on the same page here. Are we going to take decisions here, recommendations here, whilst we are told this is not a House sitting? The Chief Whip of the NCOP arrogantly responds to the member of the EFF as if he's irrelevant. He was not irrelevant, Chief Whip. Answer the question. Why was this report not tabled first procedurally in a committee? Because it was not. Our members sit in that committee, it was not tabled in that committee. I'll pause here.
Thank you, Chief Whip, and Advocate Pindela, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I have attempted to say that this is not a sitting of the House. Rather, it's a sitting of all select committees of the National Council of Provinces. The intervention in Northwest affects 11 departments. So the committee, the report therefore is considered in this fashion so that all specific select committees will follow up on the report and deal with the matters that are on the report. So there is no violation of the Constitution as it's stated here. There's section 70, subsection 1 of the Constitution that clarifies how the National Council of Provinces will deal with its business. So here is a matter before us. The executive has concluded in dealing with it, and a matter that is published for consideration. So I believe, Chair, that this is what we should do because all committees are affected. Specific areas of work should reside with the committees. More leading, because largely matters impacts on governance, will be the Committee of Court that will be dealing with this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Advocate Pindela.
Chair, I can't take it further than the Chief Whip has. I think in terms of section 70, subsection 1 of the Constitution, the National Council of Provinces may determine and control its internal arrangements, proceedings, and procedures. And I assume that it is within that context that the National Council of Provinces has decided to have this briefing. Further than that, Chair, this does not bar the chairperson from referring the report to any other committee or from the House forming any other structure to deal with the report itself. As the Chief Whip has indicated, this concerns about 11 departments. It's not about an intervention in the local sphere of government, which is normally dealt with by the Committee on by the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance. It may well be that another structure may be formed, or because if one looks at the core of the intervention itself, it appears that it relates to financial matters as well as governance matters. So it may well be that it may have to go to the Select Committee on Finance, or that another committee may be set up to deal with the report further than this briefing. I do not understand this briefing to be going to take any decisions or make any other decisions insofar as the report is concerned. Thank you very much.
Can we summarize it by simply saying, colleagues?
Chairperson?
Yes.
Chairperson, before you summarize,
yes. Go ahead,
we
please.
do understand, and we honestly do value the explanation from Advocate Pindela. But what we want to put to the fore is that the ruling party must not use its majority in the NCOP and both in committees to push illegal matters through this house, and actually even convene us whenever it suits them, because they want to push a certain agenda. The point is, this report was never even tabled in the mentioned select committee. The committee was informed about this intervention, and no progress report and oversight was ever tabled in this committee. So we are not kids here. When you explain to us, we all know what is happening in majority of the committees because our members sit there. So we all know that you are using your majority to push your shenanigans through these committees. Thank you.
Okay. Can I suggest, you see, colleagues, it's not good really for all of us, whichever party we come from, to be bickering about this matter, which can be dealt with offline, as it were, in a context where we've got a severe crisis. It's a Section 100 intervention. Provincial leaders are affected. SALGA is affected also, presumably, because of the municipalities. And really, can't we agree that, broadly speaking, there's a consensus around, firstly, that this meeting should go ahead, it seems to me, on the understanding that the processes suggested by the DA and EFF will also be adhered to, as in fact the Chief Whip and Advocate Pindela has said. They have no choice. They have to observe the rules, and they would be errant if they weren't. And the House will hold them, and the structures of the programming committee and the Chief of Foreign Home to account. So can we move on with the understanding there's no decision making being made here? It's part of an ongoing process. The process that will finally reach voting will have gone through the rules of Parliament consistently. Can we then invite the Minister, the Deputy NCOP Chairperson, Honorable Ms. Sylvia Lucas, to make an input, and let's get into the substance of the discussion, where I think the major party differences will emerge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the session. The Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Masondo, the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Honorable Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, the Premier of the Northwest, Honorable DJ Mokoro, members of the Inter-Ministerial Task Team, members of the Northwest Legislature, House Chairpersons, both Nyambe and Ngwenya, Chief Whip of the NCOP, Honorable Mr. S. Mohai, all permanent and special delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start firstly by saying good afternoon all. And since this is opening remarks, I expected the Chairperson to say welcome to all, but we are starting here. And I want to thank the Chairperson for the opportunity. And I appreciate it that we have been requested to make the opening remarks on the occasion of this ministerial briefing by the Minister of Co-operative, as well as a representative of the Inter-Ministerial Task Team on the Northwest intervention in terms of Section 101 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. We appreciate the fact that you are here to brief us on the progress with regards to the issues around the intervention. In terms of Section 100 of the Constitution, national interventions in a provincial administration may take place when a province cannot or does not fulfill an executive obligation in terms of the Constitution. The same Constitution provides that national executive may intervene by taking any appropriate steps to ensure the fulfillment of this obligation. Steps can be taken in terms of Section 101A and B to make sure that we address the existing challenge that we have spoken about. In respect of the above tasks, in April and May 2018, National Executive invoked the Section 100 intervention, and specified each intervention for all the 10 departments which were involved. Cabinet further established the IMTT and also notified the NCOP of the intervention in the Northwest. The affected departments then were as follows: Department of Social Development, Section 101A, Local Government and Human Settlements, same, Finance, Economy and Enterprise Development, the same, Tourism, Rural Economy and Agricultural Development, Office of the Premier, Section 101B, Department of Health, Section 101B, and Education and Sports Development, the same, Department of Transport and Community Safety, as well as Department of Public Works and Roads, the same. Having been notified of this intervention, the NCOP then established the ad hoc committee to inquire on the Northwest intervention. The purpose of that committee was to facilitate inquiries and also to conduct oversight in terms of Section 100 of the Constitution in order to pronounce on whether the intervention was duly warranted or not. In October 2018, the ad hoc committee resolved that the intervention was indeed warranted. In its report, the committee made recommendations to give meaningful effect to its purposes and mandate, as well as the implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of the intervention. There was some progress recorded in respect of the responses to some of the recommendations of the committee. Importantly, the following were some of the cross-cutting issues that, in terms of the recommendations, were to be followed up by the 6th Parliament. The Departments of Public Service and Administration, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, National Treasury, and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation should develop legislation to guide the implementation of the intervention in terms of Section 103 of the Constitution. Honorable members will recall, those that were there, that this matter came out strongly during the local government week in September this year. The Inter-Ministerial Task Team should ensure the sustainability of the progress and systemic improvements made post the intervention, with particular reference to sound financial systems, internal controls, governance and accountability systems, improvement of supply chain management processes, improved service delivery, prevention of irregular expenditure, unauthorized, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and addressing audit findings on a continuous basis. The ad hoc committee also recommended that the NCOP must, while the intervention continues, review the intervention and make any appropriate recommendations to the National Executive. Honorable members, today's briefing is intended for the tabling and presentation of a progress report of the IMTT that will assist the NCOP in making its own assessment and also make recommendations with regards to addressing the challenges faced by the Northwest government. What does the Constitution require on the basis of the principle of cooperative government, intergovernmental relations as envisaged in Section 41 of the Constitution? The 3 spheres of government are distinctive, but they have a duty to cooperate in mutual trust and good faith with one another and have respect for one another's institutional integrity. An intervention in the spheres of government must first and foremost not flout the principle of cooperative governance. The guiding principle must always be to underscore the well-being of the citizen of the province in concern. And we need to strive to put in place systems that will enable people to become their own liberators and advance precepts of a state that is people-centered and people-driven. With that said, let me then take the liberty to welcome all of you to this extended briefing that is now taking place, and we hope that we will be able to make sound recommendations as with regards to the processing of this matter. I thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, NCOP Deputy Chairperson. I did, in fact, welcome everybody at the beginning, but in case some people lost that, welcome indeed to all of you. especially the Premier and the Minister and the entourage and their team. I think officials here and so on, and other provincial MECs are here and so on. So welcome everybody, and especially warm welcome yet again to our Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. So having said that, can I ask the Minister of COGTA, the Honorable Dr. Dlamini Zuma, to address us. And after that, of course, we will have questions and comments from the members, and then Member China Doduvu will take over as the Program Director. Thank you very much. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the session, Honorable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Sylvia Lucas, Honorable Premier and MECs, Honorable Ministers who may be here that I didn't see, Honorable Chief Whip, Honorable Chairperson, House Chairpersons, Honorable Delegates and Representatives of local government, Honorable members of the NCOP. It is a great pleasure for me to be here to report to the committees on the progress on the intervention. Now, I must thank the Honorable Deputy Chairperson because she has actually outlined the background and the progress up to the last report. So that has assisted me a lot. All I just would like to say is that when the Cabinet took the decision to intervene in the Northwest, you'd recall that there was instability, both at a community level and at a labor level, especially in the health department. So the Cabinet decided that there must be an intervention and that ministers should go to the Northwest and make an assessment of what is going on in each department so that there could be a proper decision of whether the intervention would be 100A or 101B. So the ministers concerned went to the Northwest, they made their assessments, and they came back and reported to Cabinet and to the NCOP as has been indicated. So today, we are really coming to report progress since the last time we briefed the ad hoc committee then. I will not give the details. I will ask Mr. Jonathan Tim to present slides which will detail what has happened, and then I'll come probably towards the end to add a few things, and then if there are other ministers who may want to add, they will do so. But for now, I think it's better in the interest of time to ask Mr. Jonathan Tim to give the detailed presentation. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Over to the official. Are you on the platform, sir?
Apologies, yes, I am. I would
oh, good. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Yes, of course.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, Honourable Minister, and I observe all protocols to the honourable members, ministers, Premier and MECs, and greet my fellow colleagues. I would like to share the presentation and then, as Minister has requested, go through a detailed progress report. Can I request whether the presentation is visible to the members?
Yes, to me at least, I think it is. Members will raise an issue if there is one. It seems fine.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to be presenting a progress report that will cover the purpose of this report, background, and overview of progress, including the 1920 audit results. We'll cover the brief triggers, progress, and outstanding priorities for the departmental interventions. We will provide a summary of the risks and mitigations that we face, a conclusion, and then some brief recommendations to the select committees. So the purpose of this report is to provide a progress report on the intervention by the National Executive in the province of the Northwest in terms of Section 100 of the Constitution of South Africa. The presentation provides an overview of the intervention, its triggers, progress made, outstanding priorities, as well as recommendations to the select committee of the NCOP. Just to cover briefly, and I think this has been covered in the introductory remarks, the crisis situation in the Northwest saw violent labor unrest and community protests paralyze service delivery and destroy life and property in the province. We also faced a collapse of the health system, which required the intervention of the South African National Defence Force to render essential services in the medical medical facilities. School children were being kept out of schools. Then we also had a situation where the audit results, the Auditor General had noted a 4-year straight decline in audit results, and Auditor General noted a refusal to deal with issues raised, particularly non-compliance in supply chain with supply chain management laws and a persistent lack of consequence management. There was systemic outsourcing of service delivery to irregularly appointed project management units, resulting in hundreds of millions of rands in irregular expenditure. And municipal services were in a state of collapse in many municipalities, requiring intervention of, amongst others, SANDF to restore or address service delivery failures. This slide provides a high-level overview of the timeline of the intervention from 20th of April 2018, when President Ramaphosa led a delegation to the Northwest Province, having to cut short an international trip. On the 25th of April, the Cabinet invoked Section 101B for the Northwest Department of Health. The Inter-Ministerial Task Team, under the leadership of Minister Dlamini Zuma, who was then Minister in the Presidency, embarked on an extensive tour of engagements with stakeholders in the province. Based on this, Cabinet invoked Section 100 for the province. There was then rapid assessments done on each department. We saw developments, importantly, organized labor agreeing to return to work. We saw changes in the provincial leadership. And then on the 23rd of May, Cabinet specified specific interventions for 10 provincial departments. I will then just note the NCOP's site visit in October 2018, and then the approval in terms of Section 100, where the NCOP then approved the intervention, allowing it to continue beyond the 180 days. I will then move on to just a slide that shows the delineation of interventions in terms of Section 101A and Section 101B, We had the Office of the Premier, Department of Health, Department of Public Works and Roads, what was then the Department of Education and Sports Development, and Community Safety and Transport Management under 101B, involving the appointment of administrators to take over as accounting officers. And then the departments on the right-hand column were placed under 101A. Finance, which is now Provincial Treasury, Local Government and Human Settlements, which has now been split into 2 departments, Social Development, Rural Environment and Agriculture Development, which has been, again, apportioned into different departments, as well as the Department of Tourism, which is now assumed as a function in the Department of Economic Development, Conservation and Tourism in the province. To provide a high-level overview of progress, in terms of addressing community and labour unrest in the province, the reporting from the South African Police Service indicates, in terms of unrest incidents, indicates an ongoing downward trend since the intervention. Labour peace has been achieved and maintained through ongoing engagements with union leadership and workers on issues to address issues of concern. And we just note, notwithstanding current issues related to the employment of community health workers, but this approach of engaging the union leadership and workers has resulted in no significant labour unrest since the intervention. We noted earlier the role that SANDF played. In terms of water supply in the province remains a major issue, is being addressed through a multi-pronged strategy. We note also the successful national and provincial elections held in May, as well as the Mamusa local government by-elections in 2020, which proceeded without incidents, indicating confidence in the democratic processes. Similarly, the November 2020 by-elections were conducted without any incident in the province, which I think reflects a confidence in the democratic processes. Here is data just reflected in a graph on the from the South African Police Service, indicating the unrest incidents. You can see in September 2020 and from July 2020 in a progressive increase in unrest incidents, which SAPS ascribes to the relaxing of lockdown conditions combined with challenges in local government related to non-payment, both of communities, but also to service providers such as Eskom, which led to incidents which have been resolved, showing a marked decline in October. In terms of service delivery, we note an improvement in alignment of planning between departments to deliver on service delivery priorities, with the Premier's State of the Province address action list forming the focus of government service delivery. Capacity for service delivery has been built through filling key management posts. There was a lifting of a moratoria on staff, as well as addressing departmental structures, which have been approved by the Minister of Public Service and Administrations. Functions previously centralized within the Office of the Premier have been transferred back to original departments. For example, the Northwest Development Corporation has been moved to the Department of Economic Development, and the community development workers are in the process of being transferred to the Department of Co-operative. So this has addressed what was perceived as an over-centralization of functions within the Office of the Premier and the Fifth Administration. And there's been a termination of wasteful and poorly managed outsourcing contracts and empowerment of officials to do the work that they were employed to do is ongoing. In terms of service delivery departments, there's now in place a 10-year maintenance and refurbishment plan for hospitals, key services have been restored in those hospitals. Medicine availability in health facilities has improved through an intensive effort to address the myriad challenges that have crippled the provincial medicine supply system. Challenges remain, but efforts are being made, serious efforts have been made to resolve that. provincial roads. 109 road projects have been implemented through a provincial roads recovery plan and creation of 9,000 job opportunities. There's been a focus on addressing financial management and oversight in school infrastructure projects, which is being implemented. The province recorded an improvement of 5.7% in the national senior certificate exams in the latest results that are available, 2019. The scholar transport contracts, which were irregular and problematic, have been set aside, and preparations for new contracts are underway. This will result in significant savings to the fiscus, as well as addressing the issue of irregular expenditure against this contract. Similarly, the insourcing of ICT services using CETA and maximizing the utilization of officials employed to provide these services has taken place. In terms of restoring financial controls and governance, the audit results of 2019-20 show a turnaround after 5 years of decline and stagnation. We've seen the number of departments receiving unqualified audits increase from 4 to 7, and this includes the Office of the Premier, which previously received qualifications. The province also reports a decrease in annual irregular expenditure from 4.72 billion in the previous financial year audit cycle to 3.484 billion in the 2019-20 audit period. This remains high, but much of that irregular expenditure relates to irregular contracts that were put in place before the intervention, but had to be continued in order to, as there was critical service delivery required. Three of the Section 101B departments have remained with qualifications, but they significant reduction in audit findings in areas of qualification. There's been intensive effort led by the National Treasury together with the Provincial Treasury to undertake capacity building to strengthen supply chain management in the provincial government, as well as in municipal environment. Irregular project management units and outsourcing arrangements have been terminated, and processes are underway to recover losses to the state. Provincial departments have been reconfigured in the 6th administration to align with national norms, and capacity has been increased in the Northwest National Prosecuting Authority, particularly in the Serious Commercial Crimes Unit, to address a backlog of cases related to misappropriation of funds. Here is a table showing a 5 years comparison of the audit results, just in terms of departments. So we can see on the right-hand side the increase in the number of green unqualified audit results. The Department of Co-operative Governance, well, let me start at the top. Office of the Premier achieves for the first time since 2015-16 an unqualified audit. Department of Education has maintained its unqualified status. Provincial Treasury, similarly, with a clean audit. Tourism, which is now part of the Economic Development, Environment, Conservation and Tourism. That department has achieved an unqualified audit. The Department of COGTA, which was combined previously in the 5th administration with Human Settlements and had achieved qualifications, achieved an unqualified audit. However, the Department of Human Settlements, a new department, disclaimer, due to challenges in terms of its institutional capacity, which we deal with later in this report. Social Development also achieved an unqualified audit, and the Department of Arts, Culture, Sports and Recreation continued with its unqualified status. Here is a graph presenting irregular expenditure trends in the Section 101B departments. You can see the downward trend in all of the departments, either in the period 1819 or 1920. the high levels of irregular expenditure in the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management is a result of irregular, the scholar transport contract, as well as a irregular security contract, which have been addressed, but most of the year under review, that contract was still in operation. So we should see a significant improvement in the next financial year. Thank you. I'll move to the next slide. In terms of consequence management, there are 48 senior managers who are facing or have faced disciplinary processes initiated by the intervention teams related to financial misconduct, fraud and corruption, dereliction of duty and related. The breakdown is provided in the slide. 2 officials in the Office of the Premier, 17 in the Department of Health, 9 in the Department of Public Works and Roads, Community Safety 4, Department of Education 6, Department of Agriculture and Rural Development 10. And forensic investigations by National Treasury and Special Investigations Unit are expected to result in more officials facing disciplinary processes. I just need to note there that the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development is not a department under Section 101B. It is included here because the National Department has deployed an acting HOD on the request and approval of the MEC and Premier, but it is not Section 101B. So apologies for that error. In terms of criminal investigations related to public funds, the National Prosecuting Authority and the DPCI, the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, are pursuing 51 criminal cases related to public funds in the Northwest. 20 of those cases are enrolled for trial. 2 cases are awaiting decision from National Prosecuting Authority. 20 cases are under investigation, and 9 cases have been finalized. Investigations under 5 presidential proclamations are currently being undertaken by the Special Investigation Unit in the province, and the capacity in the Northwest Serious Commercial Crimes Unit of the NPA has been increased from 3 prosecutors to 11. 5 are on contract to clear the case backlog. So they have reported that the capacity challenges, which was a serious constraint, have been addressed. The Special Investigation Unit has been issued with 6 proclamations in order to investigate 5 state institutions in the Northwest. The achieved outcomes to date include 13 criminal referrals, disciplinary referrals made to departments, 13 recommendations regarding policy or systemic system changes, 3, and the number of civil matters which instituted in the SIU's special tribunal are 12, and the value attached to those matters is just under R500 million. There were a number of issues raised related to departments which run at considerable length in the legacy report of the 5th Parliament. That was the ad hoc committee, and they were listed for follow-up by the 6th administration. Progress reporting is available on each of these issues in a detailed narrative report that will be made available on request. We have not, however, covered that in this report, as it would take too much of the committee's time, given the scale of this intervention. But those issues are addressed. Each of those are addressed. I'm now going to move to the triggers, progress, and outstanding priorities for each of the departmental interventions. These are summarized. And I will try and move at speed and request the chair if I'm moving too quickly to slow down, or if I'm moving too slowly to speed up, because you can appreciate we are dealing with currently 11 departments.
can I suggest, I'm told by the management of the meeting, time-wise, because we lost a bit of time, that we should stick to the 50 minutes if possible, but they've said I should give a bit of latitude. So if it's okay with the members, we'll allow you some latitude given the nature of your input, but do go ahead, please. I can keep you informed of the time. But the other imponderable is we don't know. I see the Minister of Tourism is here and the Deputy Minister Joe Pashla of Health Department is here. So they might want to come in as well. And obviously the Minister herself of COCTA will want to speak. So we've got to give some latitude for that. We have allocated 1 hour for question time from members of the House. But do go ahead. I'll manage things as it comes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will then, in the interest of time, not cover the reasons for the intervention.
25 minutes at the moment from the beginning of the Minister's input, if that helps at all. Thank you.
I've got 25 minutes remaining, or I've taken 25 minutes. Or
you've taken 25, so you have got 25 left in all so far.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would just want to, I beg your pardon, just cover here. We've on the screen, we have each department with a summary of progress organized around the reasons for the interventions, the original triggers of the intervention, then progress, summarized progress, as well as outstanding priorities. So things that need to be dealt with moving forward in terms of addressing the original triggers, as well as issues that have surfaced while the intervention has been ongoing. I think I'm just going to pick up 1 or 2 points on each slide. So I invite members to engage with this presentation in more detail and the detailed report when it is circulated to the select committees. The Office of the Premier has, I think the unqualified audit, I think is an important achievement to recognize, indicating improved controls and governance. The 4 years of qualifications and the declining audit results across the province were indicative of the Office of the Premier, the challenges in terms of providing the leadership and oversight role across the various departments, so both the improved audit result in the department itself, but also across the province, I think must be taken to be a reflection on the work done both in the Office of the Premier and other departments. The reductions in irregular expenditure is also something that we highlight there. The outstanding priorities, really, the appointment of the Director General for the Office of the Premier is a critical outstanding priority. There is a process underway that is expected to deliver the permanent Director General by February, and that process is being managed centrally in the Office of the Premier together with Department of Public Service and Administration. There are 3 other HOD posts that need to be filled, and this is a coordinated effort to ensure that it is done by the book, but at the fastest possible pace. I'm going to just jump, noting that there are other issues on the screen which are important, but I'm not going to talk to each one. I hope members can read these as well. Then moving to the Department of Health. I think we've covered some of the background to that, but there's been an intensive amount of work done to address especially financial management and SCM capacity. This has been accompanied by consequence management processes resulting in 2 senior management managers, including the HOD, dismissed, as well as 4 lower level officials dismissed. The stabilization of the labor environment is also a major achievement, and I think the administrator has done a remarkable job in dealing with the difficult situation there. Similarly, appointment of permanent appointees. We've seen the decline of the vacancy rate from 20% in May in May 2018 to 12% in October 2020. Again, in terms of priorities, the appointment of a head of department is critical to leave the requisite capacity and leadership in the department to continue the work done. But correcting the budget baseline to prevent ongoing accruals is also a critical challenge, and particularly in this fiscally constrained environment. And again, I think I mentioned the pharmaceutical section. In the Department of Education, in terms of challenges, particularly problematic was the school infrastructure program with very high costs for building schools and long overruns in terms of times. So there's been an effort to fill posts, both in terms of curriculum, but also in terms of infrastructure. There have been 12 investigations into procurement-related problems, a reduction of irregular expenditure by 1.2 billion, awaiting condemnation for the relevant authority. And then a lot of effort being placed on building the new systems that will prevent the kind of wasteful expenditure that necessitated the intervention in the first place. So outstanding priorities, further work needs to be done in terms of investigating the remaining irregular and wasteful expenditure, consequence management, as well as appointment of officials to take forward the work done in terms of building financial controls, as well as in the built environment. I'll move on to community safety and transport management. Lack of controls and systems as evidenced by a number of very problematic contracts, some of which have been at the State Capture Commission. But there's been effort to really build the internal capacities and controls within the department, revision of policies, new...
Saram. Is there an interruption, point of order, or is that unintended intervention? Could go on, Mr. Tim, until we hear otherwise.
Thank you, Chair. So a lot of work done both in terms of building systems and capacity for improved oversight and control, as well as investigations and setting aside of irregular contracts and consequence management. And a lot of effort has also been put in recently to pulling the Northwest Transport Investment, the provincial transport company, out of liquidation and trying to get it to resuscitate it, as it is considered to have an important role to play. Outstanding priorities is to put in place the replacement contracts for these ones that have been set aside, and that is proving to be challenging in terms of internal capacity within the provincial department. Obviously, that goes hand in hand with the reforms to address the systemic challenges. Consequence management, continued stabilization of NTI, as well as building the internal capacity and clearing the repeat audit findings. Department of Public Works, there's been a lot of focus in terms of unlocking construction projects, pushing for budgets for roads, which have been a major pressure point in the province. Procurement of equipment to be able to do maintenance, resurrection, and dealing with challenges within employment and SMME projects. Again, addressing issues of investigations and criminal consequences, as well as disciplinary processes, and restoring the capacity within the department. So 285 positions advertised and 99 positions filled to date. Finally, in terms of outstanding priorities, finalizing the organizational structure process, filling critical vacancies, forensic investigations into various problematic contracts, as well as addressing issues around the public works and mandate, creating conducive environments for departments to be housed, and also the sale of redundant properties, which are, I think, an extensive legacy from the Botswana era, and those properties are scattered, owned by the province, but scattered across different provinces. Moving to the section 101A departments, here the directives were issued. It wasn't a direct intervention. So these are the section 101A, Provincial Treasury, with National Treasury issuing directives, particularly in the space around SCM capacity and contract management. You can see from the progress and achievement, there's been considerable work done around SCM, a new SCM framework adopted, capacity built within the provincial Treasury for SCM support, doing competency assessments for 720 SCM officials, both in the provincial and local government space. And then also work done around implementing a contract management framework for the province, and National Treasury providing support in provincial departments under section 101A. Outstanding priorities include combination of irregular expenditure, taking forward further the contract management project, again, skills audit and upskilling of capacities in the local government space, interventions under section 139 of the MFMA, as well as forensic investigations and recovery of state funds, and the role that National Treasury needs to play in that space. Cooperative governance and traditional affairs. Note that this was a major area of service delivery failure, and in the province, a major challenge continues to be at the start of the intervention, 12 municipalities were identified as requiring urgent interventions. 20 of the 22 municipalities obtaining disclaimers or qualified audit opinions in the when we started the process in 2018. But I think what is to be celebrated is a clean audit, or unqualified audit. Sorry, it's not. I think the term clean implies no findings, but this does indicate improvements in the governance and financial management. But the situation in municipalities remains a matter of concern, as well as the water and sanitation challenges that negatively affect the province. So the outstanding priorities is to ensure that the provincial department is fit for purpose, both in terms of its structure as well as the incumbents in that structure. There's the process of migrating the community development workers from the Office of the Premier to COGTA, which will significantly increase the capacity of the department, but also to review and implement the section, the municipal support plans drawn up in terms of section 154 of the Constitution that were issued in July 2018. So the National Department signaling here that there's a lot of hands-on work that needs, support work that needs to be done in the province. The Department of Human Settlements, again, that the disclaimer from the AG pointing to challenges in this new department. Outstanding priorities there are addressing the capacity of the department, building the departmental structures, ending a reliance on an outsourced project management, which has been receiving some unfavorable media coverage, transfer of houses to beneficiaries, and completion of blocked projects. In the Department of Social Development, significant progress has been made in addressing the directives, and the department there considers the mission largely accomplished, although addressing the challenges related to office space will be, and that was one of the challenges, is a long-term challenge related to budget, but it is being addressed through a close engagement between national, provincial, and Labour. The appointment of the HOD is an important, outstanding priority here. In terms of Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, there was the use of a project management or an implementing agent that featured large in 2018 in terms of national coverage around challenges, and that the progress made has been forensic audits into that project management unit, and halting of that mechanism, and building capacity in terms of the department being able to implement projects itself. So kind of achievements around insourcing with the support from the National Department of Agriculture. I will just note here that the appointment of the HOD for the department is also noted as an outstanding priority, but also in finalizing the matters related to this project management unit, which has continued to remain a thorn in the side of the provincial department. Lastly, Provincial Department of Tourism. This department has been abolished in the 6th administration. One of the big issues was that the National Department wanted to see was the merger of two of the Northwest Parks Board and the Tourism Board, and this has been done. The National Department recommends that the Section 100A intervention ends, but continued support continue. I'll now move, Chair, to risks and mitigations as identified by the IMTT. First of all, the matter of filling vacant heads of department. As I've mentioned, the DG, HODs for health, social development, and agriculture, rural development. I've covered this point in terms of our mitigations. There is, however, an additional point that we need to keep an eye on, is that the contracts of 4 other heads of departments will either expire or have expired by April 2021, and we should ensure that these the filling of these posts are achieved with the necessary support in order to make sure that we don't leave a vacuum in departments. There's a risk of regression in departments currently under Section 101A when if we see a downscaling or withdrawal. And we propose here, I mean, given that the intervention cannot continue indefinitely, we propose the mitigation here using targeted directives under Section 101A, as well as close monitoring and support, so that we don't have a hard
Mr. Tim, yes.
Thank you, Chair. We don't have a hard withdrawal, but we make sure that we have a managed transition, focusing on priority matters and making sure that all the relevant role players are supportive in ensuring that we don't find ourselves in a regression. The continued instability in the local government spaces undermines service delivery in the province, and this needs to be addressed through close collaboration between the provincial and national cogtors. But we also think that the gains that have been made in establishing the district development model, the appointment of champions, the building of structures, the using of some of the lessons, the structures that worked successfully in the province during the COVID disaster, the district disaster councils. We think that those should be leveraged to try and address this vexing challenge of instability in municipalities. As mentioned already, the Provincial Department of Human Settlements lacks the capacity to manage the full portfolio of housing programs and projects, and this has led to the over-reliance on the outsourced project management unit. So again, the National Department needs to provide close support there. Unfortunately, there's been a climate of hostility towards the intervention, and we've noted campaigns to discredit and intimidate administrators as the deployers of the intervention. And these have intensified as the intervention has continued. There have been interventions at a political level, and this has improved the situation, but this remains a threat. We also note slow progress in disciplinary processes. Officials facing charges have employed delaying tactics to frustrate disciplinary hearings, and some of these have been ongoing for the duration of the intervention. And one of the policy recommendations are around looking at a special dispensation for disciplinary cases during an intervention. The challenges here is that given limited capacity of national government to intervene, reliance is often on capacity within the provinces and within the departments that may be experiencing challenges. I think I've noted the capacity improvements in the NPA, but slow progress in criminal cases also poses a risk to the interventions, where the lack of any visible consequences in terms of criminal cases creates conditions that are not conducive to support of the intervention. Chair, I'll now move to our conclusion.
You're at 43 minutes, 44 actually, but please do conclude. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just have 2 more slides. Thank you.
Good.
So in terms of the conclusion of this report, we note that there remain challenges in the Northwest, but we also note that what we consider sufficient progress has been made to think about scaling back the Section 101B interventions. And here we note the restoration and maintenance of community and labour stability, the improved audit results and declining irregular expenditure, pointing to gains in governance and financial management, and also the efforts around key service delivery departments being made and a stable footing. So, but we also, as I've covered, directives and close monitoring will be required to ensure achieving the outstanding priorities, and also addressing the challenges in the departments of COGTA and human settlements. The vacant posts need to be filled, and we have a process in place. And also to note the emphasis on full capacitation of departments at senior management levels to ensure that that the provincial administration is properly capacitated in leadership. Finally, Chair, the recommendations to the NCOP, in the letter to the convener, there was a request for some recommendations. Obviously, these are made noting the role of the NCOP and the committees to make recommendations to the National Executive. However, we asked the select committees to note the progress made towards restoring stability and good governance in the Northwest Province, as well as the positive results in the 1920 audit. We also asked the select committees to take note of the intention of Cabinet to scale back the interventions under Section 101B at the end of the 2021 financial year. We also recommend that the NCOP or the select committees engage stakeholders, including the Auditor General, the provincial leadership, Labour and civil society, to inform its own recommendations to the National Executive in terms of Section 102C of the Constitution. Thank you, Chairperson. That is the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tim, for a very comprehensive and very helpful input. I'm sure members will engage. Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, would you like to come in now or take questions as they come? Minister Dlamini Zuma.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'll take questions. I don't know whether Deputy Minister Patla wants to say something.
Yes, and there's also Minister Kovai Gubani, I think, and she can come in if she wants. Deputy Minister, do you want to come in?
Yes.
Okay, in the meanwhile, Minister Kovai Gubani.
Thank you very much, Chair. From our side in tourism, we support the report as part of our work. I don't have anything to add to it. We'll take questions if they come up.
Okay, then that's it, members. We're over to you. Who would like to ask questions or comments or make contributions? Members? I see hands up here. There's Mr. I'll take it in the order it appears here. It doesn't necessarily mean you put your hand up first. I see the Honorable Dutoy. You would like to comment. Please do.
Yes.
I see several hands. Just for me to manage the time allocation, there's not so many hands, so you can have 3 to 4 minutes. Remember, we've got to give the 2 ministers and the Deputy Minister, if he's still here, a chance to reply. And we have to conclude this section within an hour. And it's now 22 minutes past 3. Shall we go for it, please? Preferably 3 minutes, if it's possible. Mr. Dutoy.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, I don't know if the presenters may be liaised with the Ministerial Finance in the Northwest Province before they compiled their presentation, but I appreciate them taking the time to present to us. I'm quoting from the presentation that we just received that the Ministry notes the progress made towards restoring stability and good governance in the Northwest Province and the positive results of the 2019-2020 audit. I've got with me the presentation that we received from the Ministerial Finance, and I'm going to quote from it. The financial and accounting challenges in the Northwest Province highlights a lack of accountability for how public funds were spent, the reliance on consultants due to lack of skills, ineffective provincial interventions, blatant disregard of supply chain management laws and regulations, district municipalities not executing their roles and functions. The audit outcomes, municipalities have been receiving undesired poor audit outcomes from the AGSA, and the main root causes for these opinions can be attributed to non-implementation and enforcement keys of internal controls. And then the general report from the Auditor General indicates that there is a general collapse in the control environment of municipalities. Now, taking that into consideration, we can't see how there could be progress made with regards to getting positive results in the province. The province statement by National Treasury is that budgets are not credible and not funded and unsustainable, rising unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We've got poor audit outcomes and a lack of consequence management. I note that there are a few interventions that did take place, but still that it is insufficient at this stage. And I'm also quoting here that municipalities continue to experience poor audit outcomes despite the assistance, support and capacity building measures that the Provincial Treasury has been implementing in line with Section 154 of the Constitution. If we go to the status of municipal finance, the unfunded budgets in 2014-2015, there were 15 of the 22 municipalities. 2015-2016, 17. 2016-17, 15, 2017-18, 16, and now 2018-2019, 19 of the 22 municipalities have unfunded budgets. So I can't see how we have positive results. That's my question. Chair, to close off, I also want to know what is the cost to government with regard to the Inter-Ministerial Task Team that was appointed? How has fraud, corruption and financial mismanagement, supply chain mismanagement improved since the intervention took place? Then, Chair, the Northwest Department of Human Settlements, you noted that there's a title deed restoration plan. My question is, how can that be implemented if the title deeds grants has been cut in the recent Division of Revenue Bill? Also, the Northwest Agricultural Rural Development. The agricultural grant has also been cut. So it's no use if there is a new plan on the table, but it cannot be enforced or implemented because there is insufficient
Mr. Dutoy,
funds.
you're at 3 minutes right now. Please round up.
Thank you, Chair. In closing, with regards to water supply, we're sitting with Sedibeng water supplying water to the Makwasi Hills municipality. There's a water leak on the Sedibeng pipeline that has been there for more than 5 months, not yet repaired. the municipality turning a blind eye, and the Sedibeng bill is running into the hundreds of millions of rands. But nothing is done about that. Thank you, Chair.
Colleagues, can I suggest that we actually, you see, Mr. Jatoa, you have every right to raise questions, but if all of us in this House have to raise as many questions as you did, the ministers and the DM will not be able to reply in the 1 hour we have. So can I suggest that, you know, we limit our questions really and contributions. Otherwise, we're already 25 minutes behind schedule because we started the actual input from the minister, or at least the deputy chair of the NCOP, later than we otherwise would. So can I plead with people? Remember also, can I remind you, I think the understanding is that this is only part of an ongoing process. A committee or joint committees or ad hoc committee will deal with this report in greater detail. The respective committees or committee will deal with it. So please, let's not slide in so many questions. There are other ways in which you can get answers, like putting questions to the House and so on. Can I plead with members? Otherwise, we won't get our work done. And I have to hand over to the next chairperson, who has to manage the provincial premier and his team's input. So please, members, can you cooperate? Yeah. Yes, go ahead, please.
Just for clarity, Chair, since I wasn't informed about that in the beginning, could I ask that the questions that I posed that will not be answered by the minister, that be answered in writing, please?
Yes. No, very fair, Fani. I should have said that. I just didn't anticipate that there were so many questions, but you're absolutely right. You're entitled to the answers. And since you put it to the House, I'm sure the minister and her team will respond within the next week or so. Okay, over to the next person who's speaking, and that seems to be a Ms. Fisser. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. The Department of Education has forfeited a total amount of 350 million since it was placed under Section 100 administration in 2018. Which action has been taken to ensure better expenditure practices in the future? And then my biggest concern is that despite the Section 100 intervention and an appointed administrator, the shortages of medication in the Department of Health still prevails. Recently, a stack of unpaid invoices was discovered at the depot. Considering that some suppliers of medication last received payment in 2012, it is without a doubt the reason why shortages of medication in Northwest is still prevailing. I sent photos of me of the depot with empty boxes that was currently taken. Has the Section 100 intervention yielded any progress in dealing with the shortages of medication and department debt? If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details? Thank you.
Thank you. Over then to Mr. Seleko.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair, and greeting from Bloemfontein. We are on oversight, as you all know, Section 139. Chair, my question is basically to this intervention of Section 100. When are we intending to see a close-up report on these interventions? And or is it going to be indefinite? And also, what proactive steps are they also going to implement to make sure that there is no regression? As we have seen that you intervene, you implement Section 100 or 139, and then you go out, and then we find regression, and then you have to find funds and go in again. So what proactive steps are they going to take to make sure that when they pull out from those provincial departments that there is no regression? And secondly, Chair, my last one is there any process to identify some departments that are currently not under administration that might be a risk that has to be put under administration? And if there is, can the department share with us which of those provinces is such a risk, and how are they, and how many of those municipalities that have been identified today in terms of Section 101A and Section 101B that are going to move or has potential to move from Section 101B to Section 101A? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Member Outcome.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Minister, according to the Memorandum of Understanding, the Technical Task Team is responsible to prepare and present monthly progress reports to the IMTT and Cabinet, as well as to the designated parliamentary structures as required. Is there any evidence that such reports were drafted? And if so, why were these reports never presented in the Northwest Provincial Legislature? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is
Chairperson.
Yes, sure.
Yes, my raise your hand is not working.
All right. Who would you be?
It's Zandamela.
Okay, why don't you speak now? Members, everybody's going to get a chance. Do go ahead, please.
Okay.
And
No,
the others
mine
will
is,
come. Yeah.
yes, I just wanted to check on the intervention started in 2018, and then we are in 2020 now. Still, there's no report with regard to the investigations of the wasteful expenditure there. Can you please give clarity with regard to that?
Okay, thank you. Then I think it's Member Labuschaghni.
Thank you, Chair. Apart from the disciplinary and criminal actions taken against officials implicated in fraud, corruption, and financial misconduct, what other positive results were achieved through the intervention process? And then another one is, according to the Memorandum of Understanding signed between the national government and the provincial government, the convener was to appoint a coordinator who is to report to the convener on the implementation of the intervention. Is there any evidence that such reporting took place? If so, and how often? Thank you.
Okay, then there's Member Arnolds, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. Let me just say that we need to see that all local municipalities function optimally and efficiently, and that local municipalities deliver services, needy services to those needy communities, or essential services to communities. So we need to see all municipalities running effectively. But just in terms of the current situation that we are dealing with, the matter at hand, the minister who is responsible for local government as an executive member can just give us clarity in terms of the regression. I think one of the members have also raised this now, because if you look at all the outstanding priorities, the list is like very long in terms of interventions for the outstanding priorities that there is. Then the other thing that I want to mention here is we can't come and say that the irregular expenditure, the decrease from 3.4 the 2018-19, 4.72 billion, now 3.4 billion decrease. That is not even a decrease, because that is money that needs to be spent to those in local communities. And we can't come and sit here and say that there is a decrease and it means now there is now progression. That is not progress. That is not progress at all. It must not be irregular expenditure because the communities is now affecting due to that irregular expenditure. And then just in terms of financial controls, I am not convinced that the financial controls will be in place and sufficient to deal with the matter at hand. Then can the minister also, in terms of the outcome of the court judgment on Madibeng municipality versus the Public Investment Corporation, just in terms of what the status is and the outcome of those. There's also funds involved that was spent. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. It's Member Ryder.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. Yeah, and thank you for the presentation. I just want to get an indication from the Minister. The province is currently under Section 100, and you've got a fair number of the local municipalities which are currently under interventions. And there was a proposal to put up to 12 under Section 139 administration right at the end of last year. Now, I know that has not been completed yet, but it points to the fact that you've got a province that is in a crisis, and it's a crisis of leadership by the looks of things. So I note what the presenter said in terms of the resistance and a campaign of resistance that has been fought against the administration that has been sent in to try and do something and achieve the outcomes. So essentially, I think the biggest question to the Minister is, what steps have you been taking to ensure that there's buy-in, certainly from the Premier and in your MINMEX and so on, to make sure that there's political buy-in to the interventions that are taking place, both at a provincial level and at local government level? And then the second part I wanted to ask is just Sedibeng Water and Eskom. Both have large amounts outstanding in terms of the amounts owed by the municipalities. Now, a lot of these are legacy amounts, and catching them up is going to be extremely difficult, certainly considering the revenue collection capabilities of the municipalities that have these debts. So the question is, and this is replicated around the country, so it's not unique to the Northwest Province. What are your plans in order to deal with this backlog of debt that's owed to water boards and to Eskom in order to protect the water boards themselves and Eskom as well? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We over then to Member Doduvu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I want to welcome the presentation. It was quite detailed, very, very much informative. And as a Member of Parliament from the Northwest, I can vouch to say that since the intervention in terms of Section 100 of the Constitution, the situation in the Northwest has drastically improved. And there is every reason to believe that there was a compelling case for the intervention, and this intervention is restoring the stability in the Northwest. Now, my question is with regard to the milestone. I understand the progress that has been registered. If possible, can the Minister take us through to say, in the light of the progress that we have registered to date, how far in their own anticipation and projection, how far can this go, so that we are able to understand that? I'm raising this particular point, Honorable Chair, because the Northwest government is an elected government, and it is quite important that at some point, when we are satisfied that there is stability, we must hand over authority of government to the provincial government, to the elected representatives of the people of the Northwest. And my question, therefore, as I'm saying, is to know, in terms of the milestones that are outstanding, how far can this go to ensure that at the end of the day we wrap up and we finalize this process? Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Then we got Honorable, who's next? It's Mukawuse.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I think everyone would agree with me when I say the state of governance in the Northwest Province is in total disarray. And some who are seated here in the North from the Northwest Provincial Legislature, including those even running the legislature today, they were part of this mess that province, our people find themselves in. Chairperson, I did not hear anything progressive from this report, except for the movement of community healthcare workers from the Premier's office to COCTA. In fact, it was not even a clear, they did not even give us a clear picture as to when they move them, are they giving them permanent jobs? But nonetheless, Chairperson, we have never seen any arrest so far with regard to corruption which happened in the Northwest. We did not see anyone arrested from the former premier, including the current premier who was part of the past administration. We did not hear anything so far. Honorable Chairperson, there's a municipality, Rustenburg municipality. Since 2017, it has incurred irregular expenditure of about 3 billion rand. What are your intervention in this regard? Are you just interested in actually making sure that your squabbles are continuing in that municipality? Or what is actually going to happen to the people of Rustenburg? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Divet now.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Just an apology, I'm in Rustenburg and we do not have electricity, so my video is not working. My connection is bad. I'll be brief. I just want to say, with the interventions which is currently underway, it drastically limits the members of the Northwest Legislature in their duty as doing oversight over the province. So with the intervention, oversight is not working, and the legislature, that oversight is being taken away by the IMTT. And whenever the legislature or committees ask questions to the IMTT to do their oversight, we do not get answers. That's all from me. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Botswana.
No, thanks, Chair. I'm going to be brief and just to request that the legislature and particularly the committee that I chair be afforded an opportunity to submit its own report for the consumption of the honorable members here of the joint select committee members, because from where we are seated as the legislature chair, we don't agree with the presentation on many aspects, not on just 2 or 3 aspects, but on many aspects of what has been reported here. I want to totally just rebuke this particular issue that there has been hostility towards the intervention. It is not entirely true. Members of the administrators, to be precise, would go to the extent of telling members of parliament that they are not accounting to them, but they are accounting directly to their ministers, and therefore cannot be summoned by members of parliament. The recent cases of the Department of Education, where the administrator, they flatly told the committee chairperson, Honorable Matabuche, and myself that no, we will not appear before the legislature because we are not accounting to them. So what is then being represented here is that it appears that there's a culture of hostility, but in actual fact, those administrators are hostile to the people of the Northwest that they are supposed to be serving. In actual fact, things about the reconfiguration, the DDECT as a department, the reconfiguration has not been concluded there. The Auditor General has given Human Settlement Department a disclaimer that Human Settlement Department is not even yet a department on its own. It's still struggling to go out of the reconfiguration process. So there are many aspects that we don't agree with, that we feel that it should be addressed. For instance, 50% or 70% of the budget allocated to various departments, in particular Department of Health, Education and Public Works. The expenditure there favors other provinces than the people of the Northwest, which was the crux of the violence or instability that sparked the province at that particular time, wherein communities complained that they are not even being afforded a space to participate in their own economy. So we cannot be happy about that when people come to the province and represent their own schemes and aspirations instead of serving the people of the Northwest. And there are many issues, Chair, that I've noted. I'm not going to bore you with the details and so on and so on, but I request an opportunity that we meet as a committee and submit to your good self that what we then contradict from this particular report is that we can't be seated with the Department of Health that appoint companies for security wholeheartedly from Eastern Cape and Gauteng, not even a single company from the Northwest, and we say there's major progress.
Please round up, yes. No, we get the drift of what you said. Please round up.
Through the intervention. So we don't agree, Chair, but just in short that we'll present our own report.
Okay, the Chief Whip will reply to that. Of course, the Minister is welcome to do so, but it's the Chief Whip, I think, that will also reply. Member
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. It's Honorable Ncop here from the North Provincial Legislature. I'm partly covered, Chair, by the latter speaker, but safe to say we appreciate the report before us. However, there are issues that one would want to raise that we did not actually have joy on the presentation related to whether the Section 100 has really contributed, especially on the issues that translate to service delivery. I'm just going to go quickly to two departments, your public works. Part of the instability that happened in the province was as a result of the work that was not done. Like, for instance, I would want us to look into issues related to Botswana road projects, where people were paid and the communities did not get roads there. And even today, we are still sitting with such a situation, and it's not reflected on the presentation. The issue of the forensic investigations that relates to issues of scholar transport, the EPWP projects, and key to this, Chair, is that one would want to get a sense of how did we compile this, because the same administrator who was in public works under Section 100 is the same accounting officer who was part of the department. And how then did the Section 100 manage to intervene? Did he manage to oversee his own doings? And what is the pronouncement in terms of the contents of the report? Lastly, Chair, is on the issue of Department of Education. Whilst we agree on the issues related to the audit outcomes, but our key interest as public representatives is that the people of the Northwest are still sitting with no infrastructure that is due to them, and yet money has been returned to Treasury. And this happened under the same administration, but we are not getting the sense of what actually was the issue, including consequence management. As I wrap up, Chair, on the issues around sports, arts and culture department, there is the IT company that has always costed the department a larger amount in terms of the irregular expenditures, called Velo IT, which has tried by all means to go into courts by courts and has lost. But we are not getting the pronouncement because this is part of the irregular, and we're talking millions here, and we are not getting the report as to how did the intervention do, whilst we understand that the department was on B. But the fact of the matter is that there was support that we expected from the Section 100. And these are key issues that relates to the crime. I agree with the latter speaker who said, why are we not having the complete cases within the Hawks? Why are we not having people being arrested? Because the people of this province have heard that all did not go well. And yet we are talking more of the systems, but the translation of service delivery and the improvement, not only on the final audit, but the findings and the investigations. And that then says we are still having a lot to talk to and to actually answer the people of this province. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we have Member Sonakile left, and that's it. And then the Minister will come in, and perhaps the Minister of Tourism and any other member of the executive. So for Mr. Sonakile now, Member Sonakile.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'll take cue from the members of the legislature who have spoken before me. You know, Chairperson, coming from the Northwest Legislature, I have to say I agree the report leaves so many questions than answers. Maybe, Chairperson, let me find out on the legalities around this intervention. You'll remember that this intervention was invoked during 2018. for the fees administration in particular. But I want to find out, was there any process that ensued? And this will include your NCOP engagement as well as stakeholder engagement that ensued to ensure that this intervention was carried over into the 6th administration. Because what we have seen in the Northwest is that there seems to have been a continuation of the intervention, but there were no processes to continue with this intervention and engagement that had to take place to ensure that it goes on. Another question that I'm having, Chairperson, on this one is that, is there actually a necessity for all these administrators who come as part of the intervention to have a huge delegation of security personnel? Because you remember that these administrators come in the role of being accounting officers as per Section 36, but you'll never find an ordinary HOD with security personnel. But with the administrators, there's been different. What are the reasons for that? And who actually carries the costs for the security personnel? And at what cost does it take for each and every administrator that has been placed in the province? Then the last one that I'm having is actually a question on the issue of the cases that are being mentioned in the report. You see a number of DC matters that have been referred to DC, some that have been referred to the law enforcement agencies. But could the department maybe provide us with a breakdown that will say that director from Department Public Works is the one that has been arrested? We should not just get numbers to say it's 13. What does that 13 represent? Which officials have actually been arrested? Which officials have actually been undergoing DC? Which ones whose matters are under civil consideration? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, there have been so many questions. I don't know in the time available how much the Minister and her colleagues can respond to, but we'll hand over to Minister Dlamini Zuma. Perhaps you can come in first, or I'll leave it to you to manage the response from the executive.
Thank you very much.
I think you are muted at the moment, Minister. Accidentally, you might. Yeah, there you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all the contributions. There is Miss Mary Majeke from Treasury who will respond to some of the Treasury questions, and the administrators are here to respond to the various questions as they relate to some of the specifics in the departments. So maybe they should start, and then after that, the ministers will come in if there are other issues that have not been responded to.
Yes, I think that's a good way forward. Thank you. So can we have the Treasury official, the Minister referred to, you here on the platform, presumably? Can you respond? And then the administrators. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to honorable members. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. The IT people pester us chairs when they don't see your face, unless there's no other choice. You might have challenges or signal challenges. Yeah.
Okay, let me try to put my face. Okay. I'm struggling, Chair. Can I continue?
No, that's fine. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Perhaps you'll, I know you, perhaps you'll introduce yourself to the House, please.
Okay, my name is Mary Majeke from the National Treasury within the unit Intergovernmental Relations, and I am responsible for the Northwest Province in terms of the monitoring. I focus mainly on the departments, and we have another unit that deals with the local government, that will be the municipalities. So, Chair, the questions that came from Honorable Dedoit, they are mostly for the local government, and I note that he said that we can respond in writing, and if Chair allows, we will respond to those questions in writing.
Could you do so within 7 days or so as Parliament rises next week? But perhaps 7 to 10 days, but no more, please. Is that okay? Does that seem reasonable? Okay.
Noted, Chair. We will do that. I know there was a number of financial management related questions. So I will just try to summarize exactly what is it that the National Treasury and the Provincial Treasury are doing to assist the departments. So we are really focusing in the issue of the irregular and fruitless expenditure, whereby those that needed forensic investigations were done by National Treasury, and so far they have been handed over to SIU, and that report has been given to the IMTT. We also dealing with the condoning of those previous irregular expenditures that happened within the departments. So in that, it has been a very slow progress, Chair, if I may say, because in order to condone, we have to know whether they've been state funds that were used in a way that they were not supposed to be. We have to know if there has to be forensic investigation. We have to know how much and how people has to pay back the state. So if we don't have all those documents, then it becomes a problem. So what has happened was that the Provincial Treasury has appointed a panel of investigators to go into details into these transactions so that we just don't condone without knowing how much cost, and also trying to get the funds back to the state, as they were not used for the benefits of the people of Northwest. If I come to the Department of Health, the member from the legislature mentioned that the department does not really have enough money and is being the lowest funded among the other provinces. Yes, we noted that when we were starting the intervention, but there has been quite a number of interventions that we did, because, Chair, we realized that we cannot put money where we can see that financial management systems and SCM are not properly in place. So while I think each and every year since the intervention, there is money being given to health during the main budget, during the adjustment, during special adjustment. The Provincial Treasury, through our guidance, continue to give Department of Health more money, but that money has to be supported by the capacity that's there in the department to avoid the regular expenditure that happened before. I think I have covered the main issues that I think were with the National Treasury, and I can say, Chair, we will submit the report within the 7 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got about 25 minutes more administrators and ministers and deputy minister. So if we can manage it within that time, and then written replies can follow. But let's see how it goes. Over to the administrators. Please introduce yourselves.
Chairperson.
Yes.
I'm the administrator from the Department of Health. May I go next?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. So there was a question about shortages of medication in the Northwest. Have we dealt with it or have we not dealt with it? So the Northwest Department of Health was put under administration in May 2018. The National Department of Health already intervened in February 2018, because we had gauged during that month that because of the unrest that started in that month, rioting staff were targeting the medical depot, trying to prevent medicines from getting to the facilities. National Department of Health took over ordering and distribution from Pretoria of medicines in the Northwest Department of Health. And that's what I found as administrator when I came in May 2018. But as an administration, we did not come to do things to camouflage. I got the instruction to set up systems to make sure that when we leave here, there's sustainable change. So National stopped this process in September 2018. And when you look at the statistics over that time, you would see the availability was acceptable. And when we handed it back to the province, you will see the decline. So there are various reasons for that, of which key of that is the capacity of the staff appointed at provincial level and at the medical stores to do medicines ordering and distribution. So I'm talking 2018, and the administration then started the interventions chair to put systems in place to improve the supply of medicines. At this moment, December 2020, we have no shortages at the depot of essential medication. And this is because to date, we have paid off 88% of a 312 million accrual. Within this financial year, we have paid an amount of 928,875,471 rand for current accounts. There is a problem of, even within staff in this department, of resistance to the administration, and that has to be addressed through discipline. There's also signs of dereliction at facilities, not doing the work they have to come to do every day. Some facilities, not all. That's why you'll find in a single sub-districts that some facilities have medicines, but others don't. That also has to be dealt with through disciplinary processes. But the short answer is, we do not have medicine shortages. We have paid the backlog of medication. I was saying we paid 88% of accruals. The 12% outstanding is due to invoices that do not qualify to be processed, and we are talking to the companies to provide us proper invoices. Then the only other thing I want to speak to, Chairperson, is the security tender which the Northwest Department of Health under administration, Section 101B, administration awarded last year. When auditors look at how you award, they only look at whether the companies that you awarded to meet the specifications. They do not look at which province they come from. And that was also clear to us when we were audited now for COVID-19 supplies. As the health department, we had given a lot of business to smaller companies in the Northwest province. And the Auditor General did not care about that. All the findings that we have is because of giving business to non-compliant companies. Well, we didn't do that willfully, but they had a PPE available and we bought from them. But it was just another pointer to say, with South Africa's supply chain regulations, you cannot discriminate against companies from other provinces just because you are in one province. In fact, our tender that we awarded in 2019 was found by the court to be irregular, and we were we're busy processing another tender. And the reason for finding it irregular is that we, by mistake, omitted a company, and that company is from outside of this province. So the call from honorable members, Chairperson, to just blindly award business to local companies is not in line with South African chain regulations. I'll stop there, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Another administrator, please.
Chairperson Matawata Mgoyama, the
Please go ahead.
Administrator for Community Safety. Chairperson, there was one question on learner transport, scholar transport, about the investigations. Chair, we had, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we had 4 investigations, 3 of which have been completed. The one that is still going on is by the SIU. There was one by the Provincial Internal Audit, one by Koboto through the National Treasury, and one by the AGSA. All of them found that contract to be irregularly awarded and not properly managed. As a result, Chairperson, we had the contract set aside by the court in December 2019. So it was set aside to have started a new process of a new contract. And then we have opened a case, number 36, /5/2020, for purposes of 1, pursuing criminal activities by some of the service providers, but also parallel to that, the AFU is busy with the recovery process to recover those that inflated the amounts. We have since corrected both the distances and the amounts, and we can safely say that we are now paying 40% less than what we were paying in the previous years. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, sir. The next administrator, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Molatemo Remy, Department of Public Works and Roads. There was a question raised by Honorable Ncopani relating to roads pronouncements that were made where roads were never delivered to the communities. Yes, it is true, Chairperson, that when the intervention started in the Northwest, we found such pronouncements having been made, and we have been attempting to address the challenges that were raised by different communities. These roads have been a main cause of instability in the province, in that it has caused they have caused a number of protests within communities. Since we came in as the intervention, we found that about 4 roads had already been started. And since then, we were able to attend to the other outstanding roads. As we speak to date, 8 of the 19 roads that were done in pronouncements have been implemented. 6 are under construction, and we are left with 5 that are still outstanding, which will be done over the other years of the MTF, depending on the availability of funds. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. Next administrator, please.
Chairperson, thanks. My name is JNT Mushala, the Administrator for Education Department.
Can you put your video on, please? If that's possible, of course. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to answer one part of the question that was asked, raised by the Honorable Member. I didn't get the one about the 300 million that was actually spent. But the second part is the one that relates to what other areas have been done to improve the situation in education, besides the 300 that have and the investigations. Chairperson, we found that there were many challenges regarding supply chain, and wherein we had to put systems and processes well together, and wherein you find that areas like infrastructure, contractors were actually appointed unlawfully, and some of the spending was actually taking place wherein projects used to be constructed for a period of 4 or 5 years, and wherein you find that they will end up spending more than the contract's price. Where you find that the contract will go beyond the 100% that is supposed to be, or beyond the 50%. So those are the things. And some of the infrastructure money was spent on goods and services. When you look at it, then you find that infrastructure is spent, but it is not spent on actual building schools. It is on goods and services. So what we did now, we had to now check and see, because there was no capacity in the department. And then we had to try now to get professionals to come and do the planning to move on and implement. That is why you find that there is a huge backlog when it comes to construction of schools in the department, because the money was not actually going there, and some of the money was going to the projects that took about 4 to 5 years. And we also prioritize actually the budget to ensure that we appoint, teaching actually, posts. We fill teaching posts that were vacant, like principals and deputy principals and heads of department in education. That is why our results increased from 81% to 86%. So those are some of the things that we say. And we have also done the investigations and through Treasury and other independent actual companies. And some of the investigations are about to be concluded now, wherein now the process will be done. Consequence management is proceeding as well with regard to the areas. We may go to an extent of claiming some of the monies from the service providers that have been paid for some of these things. And with regard to the honorable member that mentioned that the education administrator has told him that he's not accountable. Chairperson, I don't know, as an administrator, I cannot remember talking to the honorable member. I know that as part of the portfolio committee, I've been attending all portfolio committee meetings from the 5th administration until the 6th administration. And the issue that happened last year was clarified where the committee misunderstood what I was actually saying. And it was clarified, and I carried on attending those meetings. And maybe the honorable member at some stage will have to say the exact actually reason for whatever then the claim is all about. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Another administrator, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Sibusiso Mpanza, the administrator in the Office of the Premier. I'm not sure whether I'm visible.
No, you are visible.
Thank you, Chair. I think I will respond on the question of active steps that must be taken to avoid erosion of the gains that have been made through administration. What we have put together, Chair, is that each and every department will provide a closeout report together with the account, that is the executing officer of that particular department, so that that report reflects where we come from and what has been achieved and what still need to be done. Because some of the critical issues, Chair, were issues that could not have been finalized within the period of the intervention. For instance, we have deposited a lot of cases with the law enforcement agencies, but those cases have not
I cannot hear you. You seem to have frozen, but maybe it's just me. Can you repeat
and those
that?
are some of the things that we are proposing to IMTT and to the national them apps. Okay, sorry, for each department. And that closeout report will indicate the outstanding issues that needs to be followed up after the administration, because some of the issues were not, we were not able to finalize them because of the dependency on other entities like your law enforcement agencies. We still have cases that are running within the law enforcement agencies. The IMTT had a presentation last week from all the law enforcement agencies just to give an indication of how far they are. And some cases are being wrapped up, but some cases are still under investigation. One of the critical part were those that are followed around labor relations, with terms of those cases where people on the day of the sitting will report sick, they will go to the hospitals. So we're trying to get a different way of dealing with those cases, but those will be part of the closeout report for follow-up. There was a full assessment, security assessment of administrators. And there were recommendations of how the administration and the administrators should be protected within the province. It is true, Chair, that there were instances of intimidation. We had situations where your business people will storm into offices, will come into our residence where we are staying, demanding that we need to deal with them and their the contracts and stuff like that. And I think for me, the question of security should be directed to the assessment by South African Police Service that was done for all the administrators. Most of the other questions on finance refer back to the report on municipality. I think the MEC Finance, the report that was given by her was around municipalities. It was not on the provincial, on the provincial section 100 for the province. And then there is different kind of process that is taking place within the municipalities. Thank you very much, Chair. That was the last administration.
Thank you. Is there any other administrator in the platform?
No, I think that was the last one.
Minister, do you want to come in now and then manage the other, the other ministers and others will might want to come in as well. So perhaps you can come in now, if you care to.
Okay, thank you. I think the administrators have tried to answer some of the questions and others, especially— Minister,
your video is not on.
I'm trying to put it on, but it's not.
Oh, there you are. Oh, we saw you for a moment. There we are. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. The financial issues as it relates to municipalities, I think Treasury has responded, and they will also respond in writing on some of the others. The question of closeout reports, there will be closeout reports, and also we have stated that the thinking is that we should be out of the province in terms of Section B by the end of the financial year. And we hope that by then we will have had the heads of departments that are not vacancies that are not filled, so that there can be a proper handover from the administrators to the heads of departments. And then for a smoother transition, we will then continue with the A, which is just making sure that there is monitoring, and if necessary, there are directives that are given to the province for a short period, just for the transition. So we're not aiming to be there forever. I think the issues of ESCOM and water boards, I think, are dealt with We had the issues of Eskom and water boards are not unique to the Northwest. They are problems that are there in the municipalities beyond the Northwest. And I think there is a committee that the Deputy President is chairing that is looking at Eskom as a whole, that includes the issues of the debts to Eskom. And then the water boards, the water and sanitation, there is a task team that we've put together, not for Northwest alone, but generally, to look at this issue of water and water boards that has been put together, which includes SALGA, it includes water and sanitation, and Ncop. I think that's all that I wanted. I thought I'd respond to. I think the others have been responded to. I don't know whether the other ministers who are here and deputy ministers want to add anything.
Thank you, Minister. No, it's been quite comprehensive between you and the team, I think, anyway. And these are issues that are ongoing, so the members will have other opportunities to raise further issues. Let's move then to any other minister who is still here and deputy minister. Minister Kubai Gubani, are you still here?
Chairperson, there are nothing that relates to my portfolio that I should be able to respond to. I think the team have responded generally for government work. Thank you very much.
It's true, certainly. Okay, Deputy Minister Pashla was here for a while. I'm not sure if he's still here.
Chairperson, I'm trying to get
your video on, please, if you can.
Yeah, I can't find it. I don't know what's happening.
So you're more challenged than I am.
No, I usually see it very easily, but it's just disappeared.
I'm sure you will have endless virtual meetings, probably more than we do. But anyway, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I don't know what your host has done to, or what happened to
maybe possible accidentally. Well, they'll help you. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, Chair, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, from the health side, I wouldn't really want to delve much. I think the administrator has clarified. We are working very well with the MEC and the officials there. We have dealt together with a number of issues, including the issue of the shortage of medicines. And currently, we're actually hoping that an HOD would have been appointed quite earlier, but because of challenges with the process followed under the guidance of the Minister of Public Service and under the leadership of Minister of Co-operative, that process has to be redone. So we're looking forward to the appointment of the HOD so that there can be a smooth transition from the administrator to the HOD. Once that is and just to make sure that the things which have been a challenge can be consolidated. And once that has happened, then we don't foresee any difficulty. We think that the department is on a sound path. So yeah, let me leave it there, Honorable Chair. My apology, I still can't see the video part. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. So we're at, amazingly, at 16:25, which is where we should be, having started 25 minutes late. So I want to hand over now to Chairperson Doduvu. Can I just say, though, that when I was looking at my cell phone, it was connected to this meeting. I was seeking advice from various people on how to manage certain things, but so it wasn't that I was distracted. And let me also, before the next chairperson comes on, thank all of you for your cooperation and the minister and other ministers and deputy ministers here. And let's see this as part of our ongoing process. Thank you. Mr. Doduvu is here to take over.
But may I ask, Chair, are we released or are we expected to sit for the next session?
Presumably, okay. Oh, go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
It's quite useful that the national delegation also remains so that they hear the perspectives and issues from the provincial government that they interact with. I think it would be proper that that happened. Having said that, let me thank you, Karim, Honorable Karim, for sharing.
Honorable Chair, sorry, can the host mute me, because I'm trying to mute, but it's not.
Yes, you are muted, Honorable Minister. You are now okay. I was saying that I thank Honorable Karim for the wonderful way in which he facilitated this session, the first session. I think that was very, very good, and we were able to benefit from the presentation by the Minister and her team. What we are now going to do is to take a presentation from the Premier of the province as head of government to share with us what work are they doing as the 6th provincial administration, and what challenges are they confronting and how they solve the problems that they are facing. But more than that, how as the provincial administration work with the IMTT to ensure that indeed at the end of the day there is stability in the Northwest, and the Northwest government is doing what is expected of it by the residents of Northwest. Without further ado, let me invite the Premier of the Northwest, Professor Mokgoro, to make a presentation on the work of the 6th administration. Over to you, Professor Mokgoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Can I request that the presentation be on the screen?
As you are putting the presentation on the screen, Prof, just know that you, unlike the first presentation, in this case, you are afforded about 30 minutes to make a presentation, so that the rest of the time must be again open to questions and responses to those particular questions before we close. Over to you,
we'll do that, Honorable Chair. Could I ask to you that the Secretary at that side should assist us by putting the presentation on the screen?
I'm sure they are trying to do that. The host, please help us so that we expedite this process.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
I wonder who's doing it and how they are doing it. Advocate Pindela, please try to help us on that score to facilitate the flighting of the presentation.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chair, is Mr. Mvulani.
Present. Ozama, please do that.
Chair, I have seen that the Premier is
we don't hear you at all. We don't hear you at all, Advocate. Can you just repeat that?
I'm saying, Chair, as I check here on the system, the Premier is a co-host, so the Premier should be able. Yeah.
Okay. No, there we go. Premier, over to you.
And my apologies, I was muted. Can we have the next slide, please? The point I'm really making is that I don't think there is any need for another presentation. We are one government, and we have always been working together, including matters of reports. Next slide, please. I therefore, if you allow me, Chair, seek your indulgence to accept The IMTT report tabled by the Minister is reflecting the position of the province on progress registered, but also emphasizing that there are a number of areas that remain of challenge, the questions of capacity in departments, in public entities, but particularly in municipalities. And I wish to conclude by making the following comments. I think that has gone a little fast. If we can just go back a bit. I've already made the point that we share the sentiments expressed by the Minister, and we also share that there has been a marked improvement in the coordination and relationship between national ministers and MECs in both section 101A and 1B. Can we move on to the next slide, please? EXCO has already had a joint meeting with IMTT. We've had productive interactions regarding clarifications of roles and responsibility. We have, together with IMTT, also clarified the relationship between the intervention, the province and provincial legislature. Obviously, there have been tensions, misunderstandings, disagreements, and I think we have demonstrated the national leadership to clear those, and I think we're moving in the right direction together. We agree that a process be put in place to make a determination. I think it came up in the minister's presentations, developments in both A and B. And we made this point purposefully, notwithstanding what the minister suggested in her presentation. We're talking about interventions to determine possible areas of escalation from A to B. For instance, if you look at our performance around municipalities, there are serious concerns. Escalation from B to A informed by achievements and regressions in areas of intervention. Next slide, please. We are pleased to inform the Ncop, and I need not repeat much here, the questions of audit outcomes, and we are hard at work preparing the ground so that we actually have further improvements in 2021. We need to point out that it is disappointing that these improvements have not been seen in local municipalities. MFMA audit outcomes remain very, very disappointingly low and poor. And I think reference was made to the report presented by MC Khosho, and that happened at Ncop oversight not long ago in Madibe. We hope that part of possible reconciliations will include strengthening the province and national through IMTT, so that we do more in municipalities within the province. We are concerned that progress is not what we would like it to be with regard to investigations. And we get regular briefings from SIU and the Hawks. And maybe let me take the opportunity here to correct one honorable member who said they have not been arrested. There have been several arrests in the province. And I think it is important that honorable members take note of that. The next slide, please. Matters of governance, financial management, audit outcomes. Can we get to the next slide? I need not go into the details because I think these have already been covered in the earlier presentations. We are just highlighting the material findings in various matters pointed out by the Auditor General, because these actually form the substance of our interventions, especially post 100, although we're starting right now, to say, given the audit outcomes and given our performance over the past 5 years, it is really important that we get down to the nitty-gritty. So that much as this presentation is expected to provide a perspective at strategic level, we find that the challenges of such magnitude that it is important that we actually drill down and say what are the issues that we're hearing, and we list these borrowing from the Auditor General and our own summation, department by department. Then we have the Department of Health, we have the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management, your typical issues that come out of audit, but that should never, under any circumstances, be tolerated and allowed to perpetuate. Next slide, please. Human settlements, I think reference has already been made to human settlements. The question of public works and roads, and these are the areas of material findings. Prepayments is really an extremely bad habit where we have moved on to consequence management when we found areas of prepayments in the recent past. And based on this audit outcomes, we will continue to intensify our efforts. Next slide, please. Department of Rural Environment and Agriculture Development, those are the areas of material finding. We can see that these tend to repeat themselves across departments. For instance, you see prepayments and advances coming up again because it is actually totally unacceptable for government to be paying service providers when no services have been delivered. This is what we're talking about here. Next slide, please. And naturally, like all departments are required to do, we have embarked, we've started the process of post-audit action plan, clearly and obviously working really closely with Treasury. Next slide, please. As I make this presentation, Honorable Chair, I think one needs to emphasize, Honorable Chair, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers who are here, we need to emphasize that there are no two governments in the Northwest. We have one government which works in a very integrated fashion with the Section 100 project. And so all these matters that we report here, at my level, I work very closely with the overall administrator, Administrator Mpanza, who presented right at the end when administrators were presenting. Next slide, please. So again, we're just highlighting those areas that cost qualification in various departments. Next slide, please. We continue with identifying those areas, and with regard to the bullet point that makes reference to 10 million, this is a requirement that before any department can embark on supply chain management in respect of tenders that are above 10 million, the provincial internal audit must have a thorough look at such an undertaking. Next slide, please. For departments, I think the last slide, this last bullet point there was we have already identified 4 departments as well as provincial legislature that we have identified for clean audit moving forward. Next slide, please. And we just continue highlighting material findings. Can we proceed, please? We continue with material findings. Investigation of consequence management, a matter that comes up very often. We're listing the actions that we have taken, putting together a committee, reporting findings and reporting of investigation. Cases involve possible fraud and corruption forwarded to subs, accounting officers having and being required to implement consequence management and submit proof as part of condonement files to Treasury. Next slide, please. The Office of the Premier also getting involved. the work that we have done through Treasury, things such as no plan, no budget, control checks, contract management improvements. Next slide, please. Steps that we have taken to reduce irregular expenditure. Some of these have already been referred to in the minister's report. NEPO, where we have taken disciplinary action against a number of managers, especially 2 senior managers. Chief Director level 1 has already been expelled. Questions of scholar transport, investigations are still ongoing with law enforcement agencies. Scholar transport also with law enforcement agencies. Next slide, please. Again, we're just continuing with regard to the actions that we take in respect of irregular expenditure. Next slide, please. We continue those steps. Question of capacity has been raised several times, and we really have to, I have already issued instructions that in our provincial treasury, we have to set up a unit whose focus would be investigation, doing forensic audits. It's very, very important from our experience that we build that internal capacity. In previous administrations in this province, we had such capacity, and it really did quite a lot around areas of corruption. What we have done, and we're referring to what we did in July, what submissions the departments have already made in respect of the actions we're taking with regard to irregular expenditure. Next slide, please. The allocations, the departments that are involved have already made their submissions, the amounts involved with regard to irregular expenditure, they are listed. Next slide, please. Actions taken for further monitoring, established audit action plan systems. I think we have already covered this in terms of what our PAP does. Next slide, please, and how we monitor the implementation of PAP. Action that will be rolled out in the coming financial year. Those are the actions. Conducting quarterly accounting, improving asset management, facilitating the clearance of previous unauthorized expenditure. Next slide, please. And we continue with that. As we can see, honorable members, we're targeting not only departments, but public entities as well. Next slide, please. We continue with the actions that we'll be taking in preparation for the next financial year. Next slide, please. The role of internal audit with regard to compliance checklists, again, as part of our efforts to manage and improve internal controls. Next slide, please. And the questions of assurance, which has been very strongly raised by the Auditor General. Next slide, please. Actions that will be rolled out, and we continue with those actions for the following financial year. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Impact of COVID-19 progress. Obviously, we wouldn't make this presentation without incorporating the matters of COVID-19. We are concerned that departments and entity may not be able to complete the implementation of the, can you just go back? Audit action plan. We are concerned about possible underspending on allocated budget, although we've had 2 adjustments already this year, as would probably be the case with other provinces in responding to the impact of COVID-19. Non-completion of all activities related to transfer of functions, and I think the minister's report made allusion to completing the process of reconfiguration, assisting departments and public entities. Next slide, please. Another matter that is very, very key, also reflected in the minister's report, something that's going to be very critical in sustaining the momentum that we have gained, especially around the audit outcomes issue. And perhaps at this point, Honorable Chair, I must just emphasize, as one looks at the audit outcomes, one's assessment should not be limited to an understanding that sees audit as compliance. Audit, it has been demonstrated, is directly related to matters of service delivery. Auditing has a very strong component with regard to service delivery, especially in that third component called predetermined objectives. So that when we made this improvement, which we would have loved to be bigger than it is, systemically we reflected not only audit in that narrow sense, but also matters of service delivery, and that is not denying that a lot still needs to be done. So these are the positions which we plan to fill by end of February, so that in March those who had been successful would be able to start work in the departments reflected there. We have listed all departments and what the stated is with regard to those departments. Next slide, please. You would see again, this is related to the point I'm making about the systemic nature of audit and audit outcomes. Steps taken by the province to improve audit outcomes, progress with regard to irregular expenditure, capacity building initiatives rolled out by the province. In addition to what we're doing internally, we have just recently concluded agreement with the university in the province, partnership, which includes establishing the School of Governance at the university, but that will be Government School of Governance, but doing that in partnership with the university, prioritizing the question of learning and development at municipal level. So we take capacity very, very seriously, but also what we are doing, especially with regard to municipalities, there has been immense debate around the efficacy of Section 139, and we all agree that the debates are quite instructive and make a lot of sense. And so in addition to 139, the focus is now on Section 154 and much less on 139. And the actions we're taking in implementing 154, we have taken stock of how many SMS staff we have. And of course, this is subject to not tampering with conditions of service, because we believe that it is an unnecessary waste of money to be outsourcing by appointing administrators to intervene at municipalities in respect of 139, especially when value add really has not happened. So that we're now working very hard on Section 154. We have taken stock of a number of SMS staff we have. We have about 363. We are now working on MMS because we also have good managers at the level of middle management. And the idea is to take stock of this pool of capacity develop them for purpose of intervention, not only in municipalities, since we are a rural province, and we have 56 traditional authorities and institutions, if one could put it that way, where we are also called upon from time to time, especially in our mining areas, to do intervention. Again, it's another area where we have to fork out, lots of money, millions, which especially in these days of COVID-19, we cannot afford. So this is how we are preparing to implement Section 154. We will utilize and try to strengthen what government has crafted as CAEDU, which is a vendor word that means challenge, where as part of development of senior managers, we actually set them out there to do problem analysis, to do problem solution. So not only are they fixing problems, but they are also learning, because it is at their level when they're supposed to be getting their hands in matters of problem management. So these are the issues that we have identified. But in addition to fixing the administration, on Monday we held a very successful roundtable looking at the reviving the economy of the Northwest. And perhaps I think it is appropriate at this stage to thank Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma for the work she's been doing in determining the comparative advantages across our districts within the context of the DDM model. And that was quite a critical input through Deputy Minister Obed Papela at our roundtable discussion in reconstructing or reviving the economy of the Northwest. So our areas of focus will be the following. To say, let's look at capacity in departments, and I think some of that has been reflected in the minister's presentation. Let us make sure that we beef up the controls within departments. Let us make sure that we correct governance practices. Let's piggyback on the successes that we've achieved in 2019-20 as we move forward. But in addition to that, and perhaps on the basis of that, let's work very hard to revive the economy. We have low-hanging fruit really in terms of our competitive advantages right across our districts. And at this roundtable discussion, the appetite on the part of business was quite encouraging to move into triple Ps, BOTs, and having had the successful roundtable, it is now time for us to firm up those discussions that we have had. Next slide, please.
As we round up,
that will be the end. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Mokgoro, for the update. Actually, as I was listening, and honorable members would agree with me, you are reinforcing the presentation already made by the Honorable Minister, and I haven't seen any difference between what you were saying and what the Minister was saying. It clearly shows that you, as the provincial government, you've been working together with the IMTT. But be that as it may, can I check with members of your Executive Council, anyone who want to quickly want to make an addition to what the Premier has already said? Let me just shake hands. None? Okay, I see Honorable Madoda Sambata, and thereafter I will take some questions from the honorable members of the NCOP. Over to you, Honorable Sambata.
Yes, Honorable Chair. I think that both the Premier and the IMTT have covered everything, but I want to raise three things. The first one is the issue of intimidation. I can attest to that in health because it has gone to a level where first, it's now about who to charge and who not to charge. Secondly, it's about who should be given a tender and who should not be given a tender. And that element, as reported by the IMTT, is true. I can say it on health. On the issue, there was an issue here, community health workers or community development workers. Remember, in the Premier's office, it's community development workers who must go to local government as reported by the report. It's not community health workers. Community health workers are on health. The question about their appointment, the provincial government is dealing with that, but both National Treasury and the National Department of Health have to come to party, because if they were to be appointed, which we agree that they should be appointed, we would have a shortfall of 900 million on funding their post. I think that with other issues, we are covered, Chair.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Madada Sambata. Honorable members, over to you. Anyone who wants to ask some questions? I see some few hands. I'll start with Honorable Karen Fesser. And please follow the way that you followed in respect of the first session in order for us not to spend a lot of time here.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Premier, I know you share my concerns as well. If I ask you, do you think that the Provincial Department of COGTA will have the capacity and political will, if this intervention is uplifted, to render the support according to Section 154 of the Constitution to all the municipalities under Section 139 intervention? I want to add all those also with unfunded budget.
Honorable Lutuli, you're out of order, please. Can you mute? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can all the municipalities, will the Department of COGTA be able to render support according to Section 154 of the Constitution to all the municipalities under Section 139 interventions, as well as those with unfunded budgets? And can the TOR plan of how it will be done to give to the Select Committee of COGTA by the end of February, to provide us with a report by the end of February 2021? Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Arnolds.
Thank you, Chairperson. This is only one question that I have for the Premier, and this is now with regards to the Provincial Department of Human Settlements that lack institutional capacity to manage the full portfolio of housing programs and projects. How confident is the Premier that this department will deliver? Because we know that housing, the people of Northwest is in dire need of housing. And this department plays a critical role in terms of delivering of that important service delivery projects and programs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Arnolds. Honorable Drisa.
No, thanks, Chair. Let's welcome the presentation from the Premier. A few questions, Chair, but that will be short. The first one, Chair, because we can't just leave it that there was a tension and now it's sorted. Can we just get the reason for the tension? When did the tension start? What causes the tension? And how did that tension affect service delivery between the Office of the Premier and administration. The second one, Chair, the statement of that the Premier that several arrests. Can we get an indication as to how many arrests, even though we won't get the names, but just to know who are the people who are affected? Because as far as we know, we only know about only one arrest that relate to Section 100. The third question, Chair, I just want to the report of the Premier, it's lacking an information pertaining money that was not spent by the Department of Education, which was sent back, and that has affected the service delivery. And I don't hear the Premier talking about that matter. The other one is on support offered to entities. I will only raise one question on the issue of NTI, which is the entity that we all know that entity is collapsing. Legally, is it correct for the administrator who's here on administration to serve as an acting accounting authority and acting CEO? What are the legal implications? And I think the last one, Chair, is did the Premier and the team of administrators meet with Public Service Commission? Because the Public Service Commission have raised a number of issues pertaining the non-adherence to the legislation and non-compliance with the remedial action. Those are my questions, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Lisa, thank you very much. Honorable Zukiswa Nita.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, in appreciation of both reports, the one from the Minister and as well from the Premier, what I would like to know, Chair, it's partly one of the questions that was raised, the issue of ensuring that the work that they've done thus far, it is going to be sustained. The issue of Section 154 and also possibly the role of SALGA moving forward. Is there a plan to look at that? Two, Chair, I am worried about the input of Honorable Sambata, the problem that they are starting to experience of service providers that go and demand the tenders from the government, especially the Department of Health, as he has indicated. Is there in Northwest a team that looks at that? Because it is becoming a new phenomenon, and it's to be a intergovernmental kind of a team that begins to look at that so that they nip it in the bud. That's my question, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nita. The last two hands from Honorable Gillion and Honorable Lenkopani. Start, Honorable Gillion.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me appreciate the reports that was tabled today in the National Council of Provinces. Commend the two spheres of governance in the Northwest, the national departments, as well as the provincial government. Chair, on the basis of the principle of cooperative governance and the intergovernmental relations as envisaged in Section 41 of the Constitution, this three spheres of governance is supposed to work together. Getting out of the reports from the different administrators the National Minister, and the Premier, it seems like we can say there is improvement in the Northwest if I listen to this report. My only question, and I think I share the sentiment by the previous speaker, is when there is certain questions raised by MPLs and certain accusations made against certain administrations, Chairperson, I think we need to get that out of the way. What is very evident in today's reports, Chair, is that we can see improvement, especially in the financial accountability within the Northwest province. But I am still a bit worried, Chairperson, regarding some issues of service delivery. But I think, Chair, we need to also acknowledge the political will to bring change in the Northwest province to the citizens of the Northwest province by the government of the Northwest, together with the national departments and the interventions. Chairperson, I don't have a lot of questions, but the only thing that I need the Premier to give an answer on is the appointment of the crucial vacancies. Will we be able to see when this crucial senior positions will be filled, Chairperson, that we will see fit for purpose appointments? And whenever these appointments will happen, Chairperson, we hope that these appointments will take governance forward within the Northwest province. But Chair, I think I want to welcome the improvement that we can see today out of this report. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Gillian. The last honorable member is Honorable Ncop.
Thank you, Chair. Let me also appreciate the presentation by the Premier, and key to indicate that I'll just get into what was also highlighted by Honorable Sambata on an extraction from the President's speech when he was addressing our people on extraordinary measures to take to restore the economy. He spoke of the community health workers who are to be appointed, an estimation of 6,000, which then says, I share the same sentiments that it is of importance that we need to look into that from the side of a call to assist from Treasury, so that at least we also actualize the view of the President as promised, as he has promised the citizens around here. But key to everything, Chair, is on the presentation by the Premier. I have been making some ticks, especially looking at the SOPA pronouncement by the Premier, not only on this year, but all the years ever since. And one needs to agree that whilst we have received such a presentation, Premier, I continue to put it the same as I have put it when we were receiving the presentation by the IMTT, that the Premier has made it very clear that there are forensic investigations that he will have to carry, and we are not actually enjoying the progress. And as part of the legislature, we have always raised these matters, Premier, that is time that you need to get closure on all the forensic investigations that has been conducted, because the President, as part of restoration of the economy, he spoke of actually looking into building a capable state. Now we are not going to be certain as to whether we are doing well except for looking at how the audit outcomes and are happening, but key to everything is to uproot the corruption. Lastly, Chair, is on the issue of the performance of the departments. I would mention the department that falls within my committee, agriculture. To say, Chair, whilst we acknowledge the assistance by the National Department, but Premier, looking at how the graph has been going very slow on this very important department, which has to deal with issues of food security and to relieve the government on this COVID-19 era. The Premier is not getting it clear as to what is it that the province can safely say we are doing much on, and therefore one needs to caution the Premier that it is of importance for you to relook into the issue of the secondment and speed up the issue of appointment of the relevant people with the relevant skills to accelerate service delivery. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Nkopani. Honorable members, I made a mistake. There is one hand that I missed of Honorable Kabelo Matabohe. Can you, in that understanding, Honorable Matabohe, because I closed, be briefed? Over to you, Honorable Kabelo. Oh, the hand has disappeared. It's okay. Over to you, Honorable Premier, in terms of the responses to the questions.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thanks to the Honourable Ministers for the questions. The first question, I think, has to do with intimidations, who to change and who not to change, and the question of CDWs. I have been, and in the presence of Honorable Sambat, I've been to his department where there was instability, with a view to ensure that there is some intervention. I was not happy, with what I saw. I did also, in his presence, indicate that management was seemed to be going their own route, and the staff going a different route. Staff will generally say they don't get support from management. It is a matter that the department has got to continue to manage, including the issues of concern that MEC Sambata pointed out to. Yes, it is true that it is the community development workers that are being shifted from the Office of the Premier to Department of COPTA as part of the reconfiguration. Honorable Professor, you might be aware that these days I've actually stepped up, working very closely with the MEC for COPTA. I did that with the MEC who was acting. I've since appointed the substantive MEC who exudes lots of energy and commitment. And I have also reported on the way we are approaching 154. Honorable Professor, you'll be aware that in terms of the work that we started recently, led by myself, supported by MEC for COPTA, is that I will spend a day with the municipality talking to councillors, talking to managers, talking to unions, talking to SANCO, talking to communities. Just to ensure that that which we already know in terms of what afflicts these municipalities, we begin to grapple and understand what the underlying causes and therefore the appropriate interventions should be. So just in terms of the energy that we are giving and attention we're giving to municipalities, I think it is that energy and the extent to which we apply it that will determine our commitment to making sure that the turnaround happens. And certainly we will start working on that report and make it available by end of February. And thanks for the question. The next one, Honorable Arnold raised a question as to how confident I am that human settlements will deliver. I've been in constant discussion with the National. I've spoken to the Director General several times of the National Department. I will be meeting with the Minister of the Department in the coming days. I have an understanding that part of the problem has been a resource in this department in terms of human capital. Administrator Mpanza has been working on this. He's been working on this in partnership with the department as well as with the Provincial Treasury. And because of those investments that are happening, I'm confident that we will be able to turn around the corner. And I certainly recognize the seriousness of your question. Honorable Gliso's question. Honorable Gliso, I can put my head on the block. I think we can go all over the world and identify an intervention. By the way, interventions don't only happen, as you would know, in South Africa. They happen all over the world in governments. And maybe we should find one intervention that does not have some element of tension. Because what you do in an intervention, you bring an outsider, quote unquote, to fill the space of an insider, which insider is still in the institution. Almost by definition, tension, some measure of tension would be generated. But to be more specific, you have an administrator, and that happens at 139 as well, at section 139 as well, where you find that in municipalities, the accounting officer suddenly has to give way and the administrator takes over. And we have been told that that is in fact incorrect. But the issue is not about 139, the issue is about section 100. Perhaps, and this may be a little simplistic, what should happen at the outset? If you take the PFMA and you take the PSA, maybe there should have been a very clear delineation with regard to the HOD of the department and the administrator who assumes the role of an accounting officer. But we also know, and we have rattled these things before, you are implementing constitutional provision which is not supported by enabling legislation. I think we know that. Yes, admittedly, there is an MOU, there are protocols, and they have gone far in terms of clarifying roles and responsibilities, but perhaps gaps remain. I think what we should be doing is to say what lessons can we learn from our experiences, and it is my understanding that the team are in fact working on writing up those experiences. There have been specific instances that have already been referred to in terms of where do we account. But I can tell you, as a matter of fact, the MEC for Public Works, in my presence, has been told by the administrator that I don't report to you. It's one source of very serious tension. I hope that begins to attempt to answer your question. Several arrests have been made. I'm not in a position to artificially say these are arrests. These arrests have been made as a result of 100. These arrests have been made. But citizens and leaders of the province have been working very hard as whistleblowers, or in terms of their management and leadership responsibility to take action. We have seen arrests at some municipalities, such as JB Mark, such as Ratlow, and these are matters of security and of a sensitive nature. I don't think I want to go to the details in terms of what is in the pipeline. I think it would be prudent for me to stop here. Money not spent by the Department of Education. I think, let us be honest, honorable members. The most serious sin that we have ever committed as the Northwest Province was to deny our learners the opportunity for them to move away from pit latrines to safer toilets and healthier toilets and more humane ablution blocks. On 2 successive years under administration, we failed dismally because the money was returned to other provinces. We cannot pussyfoot around this. It is just a fact. And it was not deliberate exclusion that it is not in my presentation. There is just so much to report on. So I thought I should just set the record straight there. The question of serving as acting CEO and at the same time as acting accounting authority. It is something that we have repeatedly said is undesirable. The reality of the matter is that the public entity you refer to has been denuded of skills to a very, very scary extent. And much against our wishes, the Executive Council said, on a temporary basis, let us move in this direction. It is not illegal, but it is undesirable and should be discouraged. Did the Premier meet the Public Service Commission? No, the Premier went beyond that. Yes, I have met with the Public Service Commission. I have written to departments, including some MECs, about the issues that were investigated and reported on by the Public Service Commission. And I'll continue to, because response from departments has not been what it should be. Is the work done going to be sustainable, including Section 154? I have made it very clear that we don't have 2 governments in the Northwest. We have 1 government. We have members of the South African government who are on permanent employment in the provincial government. We have members of the South African government who are employed in other departments, national departments, and together we are a team. Whether it is not perfect or not is another matter, but we are a team that have the task of turning around the province. So there is some sense of, and I'm saying this with due respect, there is some sense of artificiality and undermining other people in the Northwest Provincial Government, that if and when the administration finishes its work, there is going to be collapse. It shouldn't be the case. Yes, the administration has added the value that it has, and today we're looking at the audit outcomes, and we're not satisfied, but I think we feel much better. Perhaps there is a need for a team to look at the kind of thing that Honorable Sambata was talking about in addressing this matter. Yesterday, I spent the whole day with Public Works doing one-on-one performance appraisal. I started at 9 o'clock and I finished at 5 with Honorable Emelapisi, who is the MEC, and his senior staff. And we raised a number of issues. And one of the issues that we raised is the question of relationship and coordination between client departments and implementing departments. And here we're talking public works and departments, especially those that deliver on social infrastructure. The tensions, the inability to deliver, inability to coordinate between those type of departments is as old as democracy. But we remain with a responsibility to resolve that. So sometimes when we have a problem, we think of a team from outside that should come and help. We have to have and demonstrate the responsibility and accountability to resolve issues. In the same way that public works has to resolve its issues about providing services to other departments, where from time to time you have more failures than successes. It is our responsibility to resolve those problems and not to come up with another team to resolve our problems.
Honorable Premier, I'm sure you are now rounding up.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, in the interest of time.
Issues raised by MPLs, I've tried to touch on some of them. Appointment of crucial vacancies, I have reported that we are on course. I think I must just make it up. If you could just allow me 2 minutes to deal with the question of investigations and follow up on corruption.
I'll do that, Honorable Premier. Yes.
We have gone a long way, Honorable Chair, in addressing these things. If you look at the minister's report, IMTT, and previous reports, you will see one matter that has always been prominent has been the work done in terms of referring matters to the law enforcement agencies. The problem is these have had very serious capacity challenges. A number of good skills have left the Hawks, for instance. And that has been the problem, not under our control. When we thought we were getting somewhere and they were finishing their investigations and they had finished up investigations, they now had to go to the next step to refer these things to the judiciary. And suddenly we found that the courts in the Northwest had serious capacity challenges. We went to national government to raise these issues. They responded, and just when implementation was to happen, we had COVID-19. So they only started working, I think, as we're moving from more serious lockdown levels to less restrictions. Thank you very much. The question of SOPA, we're dealing with that. I have raised it several times that it cannot be that when the nation says these are the priorities, then departments implement different priorities. And one of the things that we spent time on, MEC Mulapisi and his staff, the whole day yesterday, was SOPA implementation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier, for the responses. In the interest of time, we are not going to allow any additions or what. I think this is work in progress based on what was presented this afternoon. I think there are a number of areas that need follow up, and as the NCOP, we need to sit down and identify those issues and develop the mechanisms in which we are going to interact properly and formally within the legal processes with the reports that were presented before us. On that note, thank you very much from my side. I'm now going to hand over to the Chief Whip of the NCOP before Mama Ngwenya takes over with the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Dodovu. And also, let me recognize Honorable Karim for taking us through this meeting, the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, by way of giving a background of the matter that we're dealing with. and recognize the presence of and not only just the presence of Minister Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, as well as Minister Kubai Ngubane and the Deputy Minister Dr. Phahla, honorable members, and also the special delegates that have been part of this extended select committee meetings. As we may recall, this report is work in progress from the 5th Democratic Parliament. According to the rules of the NCOP, Section 254, whenever the National Executive intervenes in the provincial administration in terms of Section 100, subsection 1B of the Constitution, the cabinet member responsible for provincial government must submit a written notice of the intervention to the NCOP within 14 days after the intervention began. The notice must be accompanied by a memorandum explaining the reasons for intervention, and the chairperson of council must refer the matter to the appropriate committee of the council. The rules enjoin the committee to investigate whether or not intervention was necessary, afford the provincial administration concerned and national executive each the opportunity to state their case. The report of the committee must contain recommendations whether or not the intervention should be approved or not. If the council approves the intervention, the committee must on continuous basis investigate whether or not it is necessary to continue the intervention and report to the council. Accordingly, the first phase of approval of the intervention has been done. Hence, the intervention is still continuing. We are at a stage where this intervention should be monitored and the determination should be made whether it should continue or not. Members will recall that all the due processes and structures established by any given term of parliament cease after election of the new parliament. As far as I'm concerned, there is no referral of this intervention to any committee in the 6th Democratic Parliament. It is for this reason that this briefing should be understood as a handover process to induct all members about the process and key milestones of this intervention so that members are properly empowered and capacitated. This is especially so against the background of disruptions of continuity in the membership of the council and its committees occasioned by 2019 national elections. Moving forward, the relevant committee or committees, as may be determined by the chairperson of the council, should have the benefit of where we come from, where we are, and make appropriate interventions and report to the House. In doing this, they will be empowered by the general insights and comments in this meeting. It is my view, Chair, that this has been more informative, and even I can take it further, reflects how democratic we are in conducting our business. There is no intention on my part, neither the ANC, to short-circuit the process for any undue benefits. Our intention is to provide members, especially new members, with the necessary background and context of this intervention. As honorable members may be aware, there are great unevenness in the progress made and challenges by different departments. And this therefore negate a one-size-fits-all approach. The scenario as presented necessitate a case-by-case approach to each department. To this end, we really need to recognize the input by the minister and also the premier of the province, Professor Mohor, and members of the intervention team, the administrators that came to respond to some specific questions, and also the interaction of members of the National Council of Provinces, that's permanent delegates and the special delegates. And I must say that within the system of cooperative government, we need to be united, and we need to always try to cultivate consensus. Our aim in the National Council of Provinces is to unite the province. And we have to, even members, we have to appeal even to members, either of certain political parties or across political parties, to reflect this spirit that we need to find a way of focusing and tackling the problems, whatever way which they manifest themselves, but to ensure that we are really guided by the spirit of cooperative governance, that we find lasting answers in dealing with the province, in the problems that we set, that impacts on our people negative. Thanks very much, Chairperson. And once more, thanks for the inputs and the Minister to be available to bring this report. That will be accordingly dealt with by the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Whip, for your incisive words. I think they are indeed inspiring, and they set a tone in terms of what is it that we need to do. Now the matter as it stands is in the hands of the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces to guide on how the process is going to unfold moving forward. On that note, once more, let me thank everybody, the team from the NCOP, special delegates, permanent delegates, the ministers who are here, the Honorable Premier and your team of MECs, members of the Provincial Legislature, members of the IMTT, everybody who was here. This was quite productive. It's helpful. It has given us an insight about the issues and challenges in the Northwest. And indeed, we are going to do everything in our power to ensure that we do our job responsibly, and at the end of the day, to ensure that we contribute in the stabilization of the province. On that note, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. I'm sure I'm right.
Hi, Advocate.
You are the host.
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm the host.
Okay. Are you moving them?
Yes, Advocate.
Thank you, Mangwenya.